Standing on a tree branch, demonic arrow looked down at Hua Xiao with a victorious grin and said, "How much longer do you think you can last under my control and the poison I've put into you, idol?" Hua Xiao's hand gripped the poisoned arrow stuck deep into her, the toxin slowly spreading through her body. But the arrow wasn't just in her hand, it was also embedded in her leg and shoulder. Hua Xiao stood up, acutely aware of her condition. 30 seconds. I got 30 seconds left before the poison kills me, she thought. Considering the current situation, Hua Xiao had to deal with two threats. First, demonic arrow, who was shooting arrows from above, and second, the dangerous vines on the ground. In these 30 seconds, while dealing with the vines' interference and demonic arrows attacks, she also had to close the distance between them. Hua Xiao didn't panic. She immediately calculated her next move, dodged his knockback skill, and prepared the most explosive combo to eliminate him on the spot. But from above, demonic arrow didn't give her any time to breathe. A green light flared from his direction as he aimed, laughing, "Hey, I'm not giving you any time to catch your breath." Demonic arrow unleashed his split arrow skill, sending dozens of arrows raining down from above. Meanwhile, on the ground, the roots of the vines, like dark, twisted arms, lunged toward Hua Xiao. Without hesitation, Hua Xiao reacted swiftly. She planted one hand on the ground to propel herself upward, easily dodging the incoming arrows. She stood up straight, taking a step back as arrows continued to rain down from above. At the same time, enormous tree roots on the ground relentlessly attacked. In a brief moment, a bright green beam shot down from the sky, directly hitting the center of the roots. Meanwhile, demonic arrow stood high above, drawing his bow and aiming precisely. He fired a strong shot that caused the roots beneath to burn to a blackened crisp. Demonic arrow looked down, slowly counting the seconds, 20 seconds left. But Hua Xiao didn't flinch. Using a mountain stomp technique, she delivered a powerful kick to the ground, sending rocks and debris flying in all directions. Then she quickly leaped up and charged toward demonic arrow. As she swung her leg, a wave of energy exploded from it. Demonic arrow lowered his bow and looked at Hua Xiao, his expression calm and unbothered with no hint of fear. "Your attack method is still the same as it was before you retired." Finally, he drew his bow again, launching another arrow without a projectile. He fired once more, his words laced with a touch of mockery. How predictable. Hua Xiao landed lightly on the ground, her hands glowing. Without hesitation, she used the mountain gun technique, causing her gauntlets to grow larger. Then she slammed her hands together, unleashing a burst of light from the impact. Hua Xiao didn't pay attention to the time, fully focused on her attack. As soon as she saw demonic arrow drawing his bow to aim at her, she didn't slow down. Instead, she increased her speed and charged even harder. At the same time, Hou Hishui's voice echoed with an announcement. "Well done. Player Hua Xiao has used the counterattack abilities of her skills to charge at player demonic arrow once again." Hua Xiao quickly ran, cutting off the branch demonic arrow was standing on, causing him to fall. As he looked up at Hua Xiao, he murmured softly, 15 seconds left. Hua Xiao didn't stop. She continued rushing toward her opponent. Her strong legs kicked the tree trunk, causing it to crack into pieces. Demonic arrow wasn't about to give up. He immediately drew his bow and shot 3 splitter arrows, aiming directly at Hua Xiao. From demonic arrow's side, a shower of arrows rained down like a storm, all targeting her. Hua Xiao sprinted forward with powerful steps, her hands continuously scraping against the tree trunk, leaving deep scratches. As she ran, the tree bark broke off behind her, forming a shield to protect herself from the barrage of arrows. Next, she used her strength to punch 4 holes into the tree trunk, releasing bolts of lightning from them. The immense force shattered the wood, sending splinters flying. That was the mandala arrow. After that strike, Hua Xiao fell from the sky. Demonic arrow smiled faintly, looking at her as he muttered, 9 seconds left, but it seems there's no need to count anymore. Outside, Feng Ye scoffed dismissively, saying, "Lao San's fighting style, even if he wins, just doesn't feel impressive." Xu Guang retorted, "Lao San's method of fighting might seem drawn out, but as the vice commander of the team, winning in any way is what he cares about." Then Xu Guang added further, "For each opponent, Lao San always gathers information beforehand, analyzing your strengths and weaknesses. Then he creates a perfect strategy with the highest chance of victory, counter them." Xu Guang continued, especially when it came to long-established competitors. Lao San's strategy had no weaknesses. Feng Ye asked, "So, doesn't that mean he's unbeatable?" Hearing this, he gave a slight smile. "Well, that's definitely not the case. After all, data is fixed, but people are alive." At that moment, demonic arrow frowned and asked, "Wait, why hasn't it been declared over yet?" As the dust began to settle, everything started to become clear, leaving demonic arrow in shock. Could it be that she wasn't dead? Just as he had guessed, when the smoke cleared, Hua Xiao charged out of it, her body slowly being overtaken by poison. Demonic Arrow stood still and said, "And with the poison from the wound, you have only 3 seconds left. Don't resist anymore." This time, the skill he used was no ammo arrow. Arrows kept shooting out, but Huo Xiao immediately dodged them. She tilted her body and fell to the ground. When the arrows stopped coming, she got up and assumed a boxing stance. The poison had spread across nearly half of her face by now. Her next attack was the mountain-blocking fist. Even though her entire body was covered in poison, Huo Xiao could still use her skill. 6 massive black boxing gloves surrounded her, and one flew toward Demonic Arrow, hitting him square in the face. He didn't dodge. Instead, he counted softly, 2 seconds left. Then 2 more gloves came flying. He raised his bow and said, "I still have 70% of my health left. Even if I stand still and let you hit me, you won't make it in time. I've won." Demonic Arrow had barely finished speaking when Huo Xiao charged forward. She controlled a pair of gloves, and with one swift punch from below the chin, she sent him reeling back, causing him to spit blood. A powerful force emanated from Huo Xiao, a force beyond the limits of ordinary strength. In the face of the Hum Sun quiet, the gloves shot forward, and Demonic Arrow was immediately struck with fear. This move was completely unexpected for him. Before he could react, Huo Xiao controlled the gloves, setting them in all directions to strike her opponent, the power behind each hit overwhelming. As the moment neared its critical point, Huo Xiao's hand weakly rose, and with one swift motion, she aimed a punch directly at Demonic Arrow. It was a full-force blow, and it landed hard. He lost his balance and stumbled back. With no time left, Demonic Arrow, having endured a barrage of attacks, finally collapsed to the ground. Blood trickled from his mouth, and Huo Xiao, exhausted from her final strike, felt her strength drain away. The poison in her body began to take effect, causing her to spit blood as well. Both competitors, now completely drained, fell to the ground. The massive tree Demonic Arrow had summoned began to fade, and the system announcement sounded. Competitors Huo Xiao and Demonic Arrow had simultaneously fallen, losing their combat capabilities. At the commentary desk, the host turned to Huo Dishui, seeking his opinion. "Sir, how should the result of this match be decided?" He paused for a moment, deep in thought. Then the announcement came, "Please wait a moment. The outcome of this match will be decided by His Majesty the King." At the same time, over at the guild's seating area, Feng Ye looked at the results in shock and asked Shu Guang, "Leader, what was it you said about Lao San earlier?" Tian, also watching, chimed in with amazement. In just 2 seconds, 70% of his health was gone, so exaggerated. Shu Guang calmly accepted his mistake, not hiding his admiration as he responded to Feng Ye. "We mentioned it earlier. Huo Xiao really was one of the top experts in her time. If I'm not mistaken, by the end, she had probably entered a champion state." Feng Ye, a bit confused, asked, "What's that?" When asked about that state, the first image that popped into Shu Guang's head was that of a basketball player. Using that, he explained to Feng Ye, the champion state is simply a state where the body and mind unite in a superhuman way. It's often seen in sports. In this state, the brain's neural cells and muscles enter an excited state. The feeling of everything around you changes, and you can make precise judgments about how to react. That's why a basketball player can easily dodge opponents who are surrounding him. The body feels incredibly comfortable and natural, and the player can effortlessly perform the movement with true grace. When an athlete reaches this state, they're able to make the perfect shot. Then he glanced at Feng Ye next to him, watching her reaction, and concluded his explanation. "So, I guess Huo Xiao must have pushed herself beyond her limit in a state of invincibility to tie this match." Feng Ye frowned, feeling truly impressed. "That's really interesting. I'll try it later too." At the same time, over at the commentator's desk, the host leaned in and whispered to Huo Dishui. Finally, he turned to announce the official result of the match. "Thank you for your patience, everyone. Now I will announce the result decided by the king. The king's decision was that while both players performed excellently, time waits for no one. We regret to inform you that both players failed to advance and are eliminated at the top 8. We apologize and please both players kindly exit the stage." As soon as the result was announced, Huo Xiao and Demonic Arrow were quickly supported by their teammates and led off the stage. Little Chili, seeing the sad and disappointed look on Huo Xiao's face, felt a little worried and softly called out, "Sister Huo Xiao." Huo Xiao, looking downcast, reassured her, "It's okay." When she returned to her teammates, she sighed and quietly apologized. "I lost." But both Lu Na and A Fei immediately praised her. "You did great. That final counterattack was amazing." Even Lu Lai smiled at her, offering words of encouragement. "How can a tie be considered a loss? You did really well. Your attack in the last 2 seconds almost exceeded the system's highest value for this level." Huo Xiao, on the verge of tears, was startled when she heard those words. Immediately, her attitude changed 180 degrees. She happily jumped up and grabbed Lu Lai's hand. Honey, are you trying to comfort me? This time it was my mistake, but I won't lose again next time. When he heard her call him honey, he immediately turned pale and nervously tried to explain. Hey, don't call me that. We're not in that kind of relationship. I'm not planning to date anyone, but Ho Xiao is still stubborn. From now on, you'll be the one calling me honey first. Meanwhile, the other team members burst out laughing, enjoying the playful scene between the two. But just then, the event organizers announced the next match. All right, next up are the final two players of the quarterfinals. This time, Lu Lai's team sent Lu Na onto the field. Please welcome player number 7, Lu Na. On Xu Guang's team, it was the second-ranked player, a tall girl with a white mask on her face, fighting under the number 2, Po Ji, the lightning sword. Everyone from Lu Lai's team cheered as they watched her walk toward the arena. Go Lu Na, you got this. But right then, Cici suddenly appeared next to her. Luna, there's a call from your father. Luna's eyes widened in surprise as she opened them wider. In the real world, Luna was sitting in a wheelchair next to a window with a white cat by her feet. When she received the system's notification, she quickly answered the call. Dad, you're looking for me? On the other end of the line, a man stood in front of a large shark tank. As he spoke to his daughter, he watched 2 sharks aggressively attack a single prey in the middle of the tank. I just got a report from the lab. Your compatibility is higher than others. Now come to the company with me. Luna responded over the phone. Okay, but she was a bit confused in her mind. Dad wants to take me to the company? That reminded her of the first time, and so far the only time she had been to her father's company. She remembered being very young then, when her mother took her to his office. Her mind shifted to the upcoming match. Oh no, she was about to face Mood Slash and their team. She whispered into the phone, by the way, Dad, could you wait for me a bit? But he seemed impatient, even with his own daughter. He glanced at the 2 fish attacking each other in the tank and coldly cut her off. I don't like waiting. Have the butler come pick you up right now. Luna had no choice but to accept. Okay, I'll get ready. He looked at the phone screen where her call had already ended and remained silent for a moment. Then, as the fight between the 2 sharks in the tank reached its conclusion, he turned and walked away. One of the sharks had been killed by the other. He couldn't help but think to himself, maybe this was all fate. The dead fish quickly sank into the tank's drain, heading towards the pipes. As it sank deeper into the darkness, the victorious shark, now with its prize, turned coldly and swam off in the other direction. Back in the game, Luna lowered her head, apologizing to her teammates. Sorry, everyone. There's an emergency at home. I can't compete right now. I'm really sorry. Lu Lai casually nodded in response. It's fine. Family comes first. Afi also chimed in to reassure her. Don't worry, your big brother's here. Xiao La Jiao, Little Pepper, cheerfully encouraged her. We're all friends here. No need to be so formal. Go ahead. Luna quickly left a message before logging off. Thank you all for understanding. I'll be back soon. The host, sitting at the table, was surprised and asked, what's going on? Is Luna choosing to forfeit the match? Koihi Shui, sitting beside him, quickly replied, maybe something more important came up. Then he raised his voice to announce, since player Luna has forfeited, player Lightning Sword will automatically level up. As he made the announcement, the system screen displayed 3 names, Xu Guang, Lu Lai, and Lightning Sword, all heading toward the championship crown. Along with this, the organizers commented, so, for now, there are only 3 players, Xu Guang, Moon Slash, and Lightning Sword. The championship will be decided between one of these 3 players. Let's all look forward to it. The 2 commentators echoed, so, who will be the first to take the stage? The first match was quickly announced. Please welcome player number 2, Po Ji Lightning Sword, to face off against player number 1, Po Ji Xu Guang. They didn't forget to add, it's a random draw, but it's an internal battle within the Po Ji Guild. On Luli's side, hearing the results, everyone gathered happily to discuss. Afai, both excited and worried, reminded him, this is great, big brother. We're going straight to the finals, but when you're in the finals, be careful with that guild leader. He's ridiculously strong. On their side, Huaf Xiao and Xiao Qi also expressed concern and gave advice. His movements are flawless, but his strategy is pretty outdated. You might be able to break through from that angle. Over here, Xu Guang's team was also a bit surprised by the result, so they gathered together to discuss it. Tian Tian seemed really confused and asked Xu Guang, wait, do we really have to fight? Xu Guang, on the other hand, happily put his hands on his hips, laughing as he spoke to Lightning Sword. Such bad luck, but it's been a while since we've had a good spar. Demonic Arrow, standing behind, frowned and disagreed, reminding him, we need to avoid pointless fights like this. They'll just give away information to other guilds. Meanwhile, Feng Yan, who was busy with something on the ground, scoffed loudly. Ignoring her teammates' chatter, Lightning Sword stayed quiet for a moment. then spoke in a more serious tone to Shu Guang. Let me handle that person. I want to fight him. Her words caught him off guard. It was rare to see her so eager to fight. Moon Slash must have sparked her interest. Without saying another word, he raised his hand toward the two sitting high on the platform, who were both commenting and judging the match, and shouted, Hey, I forfeit. And as an afterthought, he quietly added to Lightning Sword, You owe me a meal. Huo Hishui's team, hearing the announcement, wasn't too surprised and began discussing it. Shu Guang forfeits the match, giving Lightning Sword a direct promotion. The host responded, It makes sense that he's avoiding a fight with his team, but I think it would still be better to let Shu Guang level up. Huo Hishui seemed to understand and made a prediction. They probably thought either Shu Guang or Lightning Sword would win for sure. After some quick agreement, both of them spoke into the microphone to announce the next match. All right, no more talking, everyone. It's finally time for the grand finale. Both Lu Lai and Lightning Sword stepped onto the arena together as announced by the event organizers. Let's welcome competitor number 3, Moon Slash, to face off against competitor number 4, Poji, Lightning Sword, who will emerge as the champion warrior. Let's wait and see. Lu Lai stepped onto the battlefield to the sincere cheers of a Phi. Big Brother will win for sure. Big Brother will win for sure. Along with the bright red face and voice full of admiration from Little Chili. Go for it. And a few words that didn't quite sound like encouragement from Hoaxiao. The scent of hormones is so strong. But just after taking a few steps, someone stopped in front of him. Lu Lai slightly raised his gaze. Feng Ya. Without wasting time, Feng Ya went straight to the point. We're brothers, right? Earlier, during our fight, you revealed a lot of moves. To keep things fair, I'll share some information about Sister. Then he furrowed his brows a little and spoke as if making a firm statement. But you definitely can't beat her. A moment later, the grand final began on the wide arena. Lu Lai and Lightning Sword stood on opposite sides, facing each other. As soon as the signal was given, both Lightning Sword and Lu Lai charged toward each other at their fastest speed. When they were just a short distance apart, both of them simultaneously used their stealth techniques. Bai, the show host, asked in surprise, Where did they go? Quality Shui, more experience, answered him. Both competitors have simultaneously used cloaking skills. On the arena, Lu Lai and Lightning Sword used a disappearing technique that made them almost vanish in front of everyone, relying solely on their senses to fight. Lightning Sword took advantage of the moment and appeared right in front of Lu Lai. The instant the stealth technique ended, she leaped into the air, her leg trailing a fiery attack aimed directly at him. Meanwhile, a bright red blade had somehow appeared in his hand, also ready to strike. When their attacks collided, they unleashed a powerful shockwave that spread out in all directions. Lightning Sword landed, sliding backward from the force of her own strike, creating more distance between them. But Lu Lai wasn't about to back off. Swiftly, he grabbed his sword and charged forward. The two clashed from the ground to the air, moving so quickly that their points of contact left afterimages scattered everywhere. This left the show's director, who was watching closely, a bit in disbelief. Suddenly, there were multiple copies of both Moon Slash and Lightning Sword appearing on the field. Is that a cloning technique? Huo Hishui, once again playing the role of the explainer, replied. No, it's afterimages from their speed. On the field, Lu Lai gripped his sword tightly, swinging it backward to build momentum. In the next moment, he unleashed a flurry of red slashes, attacking Lightning Sword nonstop, forcing her to constantly lean back and dodge. Her foot slid back, and almost immediately, she retaliated with a barrage of kicks aimed directly at him, pushing Lu Lai to retract his sword and raise it in front of him to block. The Lightning Sword quickly pulled back with incredible speed, and Lu Lai followed her slightly as she retreated. This time, both of them used their legs to attack. Their feet collided, releasing countless streaks of yellow, red, and black energy that blasted out in all directions. The impact from the powerful strikes was so intense it created a small energy explosion, sending both of them flying backward. A Phi, who had been watching the fight, couldn't help but sweat. Are they really on equal footing with each other? Hua Xiao, also keeping an eye on the battle, noticed and said, They're just testing each other out. They haven't started fighting seriously yet. The little pepper, hearing her words, fell silent. After all that, it's still just a test. Lu Lai glared at his opponent as she used her violent restraint technique. He leaped forward and charged toward her. On the other side, the Lightning Sword also rushed in. She wasn't falling behind, staring intently at him, and used her own violent restraint technique. This time, the two forces clashed head-on, creating countless energy rings that spread across the ground. The space around them was almost completely filled with the explosion of light from their energies, mixed with streaks of black and gold lightning and fire. The amazed commentators' voices rang out. What a powerful clash of skills. This was like a top-tier battle between elite assassins. On the battlefield, a huge red cross-shaped light suddenly flashed. Lu Lai grabbed his bright red sword and charged at Lightning Sword with incredible speed, forcing her to lean back as far as she could to dodge. But as soon as he passed her, she saw an opening behind him and kicked at his back. Before he could turn around, she lunged at him from behind, raising her leg high to strike down at his head. The moment she executed the move, he vanished from her sight, moving like a shadow and appearing behind her. She quickly sensed this, tilted her head slightly to look, and responded with another move. This time, Lightning Sword suddenly appeared behind Lu Lai, kicking him in the back. He swung his sword backward, but she dodged it quickly. Then, using her legs and body, she locked his sword arm in place. Her legs were wrapped around his neck in a position known as the flying cross choke, a move where the legs are used to squeeze the opponent's neck. As Lightning Sword's legs tightened around his neck, Lu Lai grimaced and thought to himself, "This is it." His free hand immediately reached for another weapon and swung it at her, forcing her to flip midair and create some distance between them. With both swords in hand, Lu Lai stood on guard watching Lightning Sword, who had jumped to the other side of the arena slightly confused. Is she still testing me? He wondered, remembering the words Feng Ye had told him before the fight. Look, bro, don't blame me for being blunt, but if you two go head-to-head, you won't stand a chance against my older sister. I've fought her thousands of times over the years since joining the team, and I've never won. Feng Ye's words had revealed Lightning Sword's true identity to him. My older sister in real life used to be a mercenary captain who went through countless hardships. She fought in battles, holding a gun in her hands, and with just one shot, she could take down her enemy. Some people even say she's not only incredibly accurate with a gun, but she knows everything about every type of weapon. And on top of that, she's skilled with knives too. Just one person wielding a knife could easily kill dozens. At this point, Feng Ye turned to Lu Lai and asked, "You're probably wondering how someone like her ended up playing games with us, right?" I was curious too. Then he continued, "Well, it was after a night of drinking that we finally learned the truth. She told us about a mission she had been on. In her memory, she charged into the last room, gun in hand, facing off against the leader of a criminal gang. This was a human trafficking ring that specialized in selling children's organs. They were not only numerous and powerful, but they also kidnapped children and held them hostage. The leader of the gang was holding remote control, with more than a dozen children tied up behind him. Each of them had a bomb strapped to them. And the worst part was that even my sister's own teammates had been bought off by the enemy. And just when she wasn't paying attention, a man who used to be her teammate took advantage of her momentary lapse and attacked her from behind with a knife. The knife in his hand drove straight into her shoulder, but Lightning Sword reacted quickly, turning the muzzle of the gun and firing directly at the other man's head, taking him down. However, this caused the situation to shift again, and the last bullet in the pistol was fired. In that critical moment, there was no time to think. Older sister grabbed the dagger that had been lodged in her body and quickly hurled it straight at the boss, landing a hit right in his head. Feng Ye sighed as she continued, "That fat pig pressed the remote before he died. He was still sitting on his sofa, eyes closed, but his fingers had already pressed the button on the remote in his hand. The timer on the bomb stopped. Lightning Sword yelled, no, but it was too late. A devastating flame erupted, engulfing the children in its fierce blaze, their screams filling the air. She sat frozen, staring at the burned corpses from a distance, unable to speak. Feng Ye went on to tell Lu Lai how that event became an unshakable burden on older sister's heart. Afterward, she gave up being a mercenary and returned to her home country. Somehow, she ended up meeting our boss, got pulled into our team, and became an esports player. Normally, when she played regular games, older sister was decent, but when it came to first-person shooters or virtual reality combat games, her skills were off the charts. She dominated the competition. Then, she would kindly remind us, "Oh, by the way, I'm ranked #1 on the assassin leaderboard in the domestic server of the game Illusory Moon." On the server leaderboard, the image of Lightning Sword wearing a mask appeared, along with her rank in the assassin category. No on Lightning Sword. Lu Lai's face darkened. After the memories faded, he murmured quietly, "Mercenary, top assassin," in the domestic server. Lu Lai stood, holding two blades, one red, crackling with dark red energy, the other bright yellow, constantly emitting golden energy beams. He smiled while holding his stance. "Interesting," he said. Lightning Sword quickly sensed the shift in his movements and immediately adjusted her stance to attack. In the next moment, the two of them, like bolts of lightning, clashed with powerful energy. They both charged forward at the same time. The twin blades in Lu Lai's hands struck fiercely against Lightning Sword's weapon. Where their weapons met, sparks flew nonstop. Lu Lai was slightly surprised to notice that her weapon was just the scabbard. His eyes widened and his voice turned cold. "Still haven't drawn your blade?" He then swung his sword, narrowly grazing her body. Lightning Sword quickly retreated, continuously blocking Lu Li's relentless attacks with her own sword. She couldn't find a chance to counterattack, as he kept pressing forward with both blades. The the golden and dark red energies intertwined like serpents, continuously striking toward her. She blocked with her sword, but couldn't help but marvel inwardly. Those twin blades are so fast. At that moment, the two blades formed a deadly circle, forcing her to flip backward to avoid the strike. As Lightning Sword moved back, she quickly raised her hand, preparing a technique. Thunderclone technique. Instantly, 5 copies of Lightning Sword, each surrounded by lightning, appeared on the battlefield. The 5 figures charged at Lu Lai in unison, attacking from all sides. He stepped back while continuously swinging his twin blades, forming a shield to block the attacks from the clones. But it was hard for one person to handle so many opponents at once. As soon as he blocked a kick from one, he immediately took another kick to the chin from someone else, followed by a punch to the face. With a powerful swing, he executed the paralysis strike, instantly defeating almost all the clones in front of him. As soon as the clones vanished, the real Lightning Sword appeared and charged at him. Lu Lai easily dodged her attack and swung his blade toward her. However, Lightning Sword quickly leaped to the side to avoid the strike. She then used the paralysis strike herself, mirroring the same move and attacking him from behind. Lu Lai recognized her move and immediately activated his stealth technique. At the same time, his clone used stealth as well. The clone had used the technique in front of her, while Lu Lai himself hid in the shadows beneath the ground, moving around to get behind Lightning Sword. As her strike hit the clone he left behind, his real body also successfully struck her. At the next moment, another clone appeared and moved forward. Both clones simultaneously swung their blades at Lightning Sword, who was caught in between them. But in that brief moment, she used a technique to escape the simultaneous front and back attack. She turned around only to see 2 Lu Lais, both wielding twin blades. Fengye was surprised by his clone technique. Not bad. Moon Slash still has some tricks up its sleeve, Shu Guang, who was standing next to him, said with interest. This is really interesting. So, what do you think? Do you think Moon Slash has a chance of defeating your older sister? Fengye hesitated for a moment, but finally said, right now, there's no chance. On the battlefield, Lightning Sword grimly drew the blade strapped to his back. As soon as the sword was unsheathed, lightning crackled around it. The moment Lightning Sword swung it, a massive storm of thunder and lightning erupted across the arena. Both Lu Lai's eyes followed the scene, and they said in unison he's finally drawn his sword. Upon hearing this, Lightning Sword immediately extended one hand toward Lu Lai, summoning a bolt of lightning to strike him. No need for the sword, Lu Lai thought to himself. That sword is incredibly powerful. If he uses it, this battle won't be as interesting. He looked up in surprise, and just then, a giant column of lightning came crashing down from the sky, directly targeting him. While one person struggled to withstand the massive bolt of lightning, the other continued charging at Lightning Sword, engaging in close combat. She deflected his relentless attacks while speaking. My Lightning Sword can summon thunder to attack. The thunder will keep striking the enemy until they die. With the giant bolts of lightning relentlessly pounding down, Lu Lai was forced to kneel on the ground, struggling to hold his ground. He couldn't help but think to himself, I can't keep draining my energy like this. I'm about to collapse. Gritting his teeth, he used all of his strength to cross his sword in front of him, and at that exact moment, both of them launched their attacks simultaneously. Hidden Dragon, Great Abyss. A massive dragon's head appeared in midair, shattering the thunderstorm that Lightning Sword had summoned. Another strike, Paralyzing Strike, Break the Ring, aimed directly at the opponent's avatar. Lightning Sword was struck by both attacks at once. A huge surge of energy, taking the shape of a golden dragon, shot down from the sky and crashed straight into Lightning Sword. Her entire figure was swallowed by the light and the powerful force of the attack. Watching the battle from the outside, the remaining members of the Poji team couldn't help but be impressed. Demonic Arrow, feeling confused, asked when did her clone start using skills like that? Shu Guang was also surprised. This is the first time I've seen it. Normally, a clone of the assassin's skill can only perform basic attacks. Fengye seemed more focused on Lightning Sword. It looked like her older sister wasn't able to react in time this time. The arena was now filled with smoke and dust. He turned back and cautiously reminded his clone, be careful. I feel like the final move wasn't right. At that moment, a bolt of lightning flashed and a sword stabbed coldly through Lu Li's chest from behind. Lightning Sword seemed to have appeared from a crack in space right behind him, without hesitation, and drove the sword straight through his body. Lu Lai was stunned, stammering, "What?" The system display showed the skill she was using. Divine Evasion, a passive skill that, when receiving a critical hit, could tear through space to dodge and instantly heal 20% of health. The skill had a 12-hour cooldown. Lu Lai, struck by her sword, quickly faded away, while the other person leaped back in caution. Was it a clone? Lightning Sword seemed slightly regretful for not finishing the battle. Sweat dripped down his face as he stared at her, his voice low and serious. You really are strong." She responded, "You are strong too. You almost killed me just now, but it's a shame. You use your clum again." 5 lightning swords appeared on the arena, each calling down thunder, surrounding every possible escape route for Lu Lai. You have no chance left. In an instant, the sky was filled with thunder and lightning, scaring a bird flying overhead. It flapped in panic and cried out. Right after that, a bolt of lightning shot down from the sky, striking directly at Lu Lai. The bolt of lightning struck the arena floor, piercing through the open dome above. The announcer covered his face with his hand and muttered, "Master, you've stolen my sunglasses again." Huo Shui watched the match with satisfaction, wearing his sunglasses. This kid's interesting. The lightning sword player uses the clone technique to summon lightning weapons that explode continuously with Moon Slash. On the arena, Lu Lai kept dodging and running to avoid the bolts of lightning. Meanwhile, the clones of the lightning sword player attacked him all at once again. He braced himself, using his sword to block the sliding force of the strikes, glaring at his opponent and thinking, "This weapon only delays the attack. It doesn't have a cooldown rate." Outside the arena, a Phi muttered, clearly worried, "Shit, isn't that a bug? My firepower at least has some time limit, but her lightning, or whatever, that's unlimited." Guo Xiao stroked his chin thoughtfully. "The quality of this weapon is probably something we've never seen before." Feng Ya, who understood the lightning sword's weapon well, furrowed his brows and muttered to himself, "You guys have done well so far, but you won't be able to win after this. In her hands, it's a legendary weapon." Lightning Sword raised their hand in the stands, swinging their mythical level sword. This was the original lightning sword known for its Thunderblade, which automatically converted its attack power into lightning magic damage. The Thunderblade attracts lightning from the sky to deal damage to enemies until their health reaches 0. It uses lightning strikes every 3 minutes to deal extreme damage. Reading the announcement about Lightning Sword's weapon, Lu Li couldn't help but be surprised. How is that possible? It's not even time to release a boss with mythical gear yet. She calmly confirmed the information. "That's right, it's not supposed to be equipment for this stage." She added, "It's just a scout." Lu Lai was still confused and asked again, "Scout, are you a scout player?" He continued asking her for more information. "Do you know someone named Han Yixiao?" Hearing that name, Lightning Sword was taken aback. "Han Yixiao, what's your relationship with him?" Lu Lai answered, "I'm his brother. If you don't mind, could you tell me what you gathered about him?" She quickly responded, "Sure, no problem." Lu Lai smiled and thanked her. A Lightning Sword immediately interrupted. "However, there's a condition," she said coldly. "You have to beat me first, then I'll tell you." 5 of her clones raised their swords, summoning thunder and covering the arena with a deadly storm of lightning. "If you're truly his brother, then your strength should be similar. If you lose, don't expect me to say a word." Lu Lai, now serious, agreed to her condition. "Then I'll hold you to your word." In that moment, his figure blurred, disappearing into the smoke and dust. Both he and the clones of Lightning Sword quickly collided with each other, accompanied by thunder and streams of red and black energy intertwining. He leaped into the air, skillfully dodging a slash from Lightning Sword while simultaneously executing a cleaving strike, sending countless crescent-shaped red sword energies toward her approaching clones. In an instant, 2 clones appeared behind him, closing in from both sides. Thunder roared. He unleashed a move that summoned a powerful bolt of lightning, striking directly at Lu Li's position. Amid the flash of light, golden and red-black energy clashed violently. He used his dual swords to cut down one of Lightning Sword's clones. At the same time, he was attacked from behind by another clone. Lu Lai quickly spun around, slashing at the clone while simultaneously fending off the one attacking him. After eliminating that clone, he turned his attention to another and charged forward. Both sides once again closed in at breakneck speed. From the stands, a massive thunderbolt intertwined with red-black electricity shot up into the sky. When the lightning dissipated, Lu Lai and Lightning Sword remained facing each other. But Lu Lai soon stumbled, clutching his chest and dropping to a knee. She stood tall and proud, pointing her sword at him and saying, "Looks like you won't get a chance to hear any news about your comrades." Lu Lai gritted his teeth and pushed himself back up, grabbing his dual swords once more and charging forward, shouting, "Damn it, this isn't over yet." He stamped his foot hard, one sword charging directly toward Lightning Sword, while the other appeared from behind her, ready to strike down. The Lightning Sword immediately turned cold and explained her attack. "So that's how it is. A decoy is meant to grab attention. The real killing move is hidden in the main body in the dark, but too bad, I saw through it." As she spoke, she swung her blade to strike at the shadowy figure charging toward her from behind. However, Lu Lai, surrounded by a swirling red force, was already closing in from behind her. Who told you the main body is behind? That's just an image-shifting technique of the Shadow Clone. The clone can take on 80% of the main body's attributes and use its skills and items. Plus, within a 500-meter range, the clone can switch places with the main body. Lu Lai swung his sword in a wide arc, creating a red whirlpool of sword energy around both of them. The blade cut through the air once again, summoning a red energy ball that engulfed both of them. The commentators in the stands didn't miss this moment and shouted excitedly. Moonslash has used his cleaving blade technique to trap Lightning Sword himself. Is he trying to corner both of them and settle this with a final showdown in the arena? Even Lightning Sword thought the same way. Inside the sphere, she swung the sword in her hand and said to Lu Lai, "Do you want both of us to die? I will give you the chance." But immediately she froze suddenly on alert. In front of her, Lu Lai started changing. A fiery red aura surrounded him, and his once black hair turned white. On his forehead, a sharp horn appeared and his eyes glowed with a red light resembling that of a demon. As the Hellatula technique activated, a massive red demon head, carrying the scent of death, seemed to emerge from Lu Lai's body. It looked down ominously at Lightning Sword. Watching Lu Lai transform into his Atula form shocked her. Pieces of her mask shattered, and her eyes filled with a deep, unforgettable longing. She remembered 2 years ago, the moment she opened her eyes, a man had been there, calling out to her. "Little sister? Little sister?" Shu Guang asked, his voice filled with concern. "Little sister, what's wrong?" At that moment, she felt as though she had just woken up. Her head hurt terribly. She shook it and asked, "Is everything okay? Where are the others?" He answered, "They're all dead." The scene before her was devastating. Everyone was gone, except for the two of them. She couldn't help but sigh. No wonder it's a mythical boss level. Poji must have been a secret beta version. We were the first to encounter a boss of this level. The strategy to defeat it and the resources it dropped became our biggest advantage over others in the open beta. A massive robot appeared in front of them. He handed her something at that moment. "My condition is reaching its limit, so I'm giving this to you," he said. She was surprised, not knowing what he was giving her. She reached out and took it anyway. "For me?" she asked. He handed her a box with a red hue. The system displayed some information on it. The box contained a password, benefits for the highest-ranking member of the Celestial Fate Company, and that the chosen items or equipment could be locked by exclusive passwords. These passwords could be entered in the public beta version. Note, the level and function of the item would be limited to the level of the user. At that moment, both of them were preparing to face the giant robot. Here it comes. The robot gathered its energy in one spot, creating an electric ball in front of it. The robot fired a lightning bolt from the ball straight toward both of them. "Little sister, I can only block one hit for you. The rest is up to you," he said. Immediately, he combined 3 defensive enhancement skills. His mysterious shield and counter shield activated. The counter hit caused the robot to take damage. However, his character couldn't withstand the robot's next attack and began to disappear slowly. Before leaving, he said goodbye. "I'm going now." Taking advantage of this moment, she quickly launched her attack. She grabbed the sword on her back and bolts of electricity crackled from it. She immediately activated her skill, Thunder Clone Technique. Her clones appeared in midair and charged toward the robot to attack. But she didn't stop there. She quickly used another skill, Black Death Sword Slash. A red light shot from the sword, and in an instant, 4 gigantic swords pierced through the robot's body. The force of her strike was so powerful that it even broke her sword. She let out a deep sigh, relieved that the battle was finally over. Pieces of the robot's body began falling from the sky, hitting the ground. Suddenly, a golden light appeared before her. The robot transformed into a smaller version of itself and stepped forward. It adopted the form of the Black Rain Lightning Demon. It praised her, saying, "Be proud, for this is the honor of a lifetime. Witness my true form." The robot soared into the air and energy spheres appeared before it. It spoke again, "Tremble in fear." She was now completely stunned. "The second form," she murmured. Without hesitation, the robot unleashed its lightning strike, aiming directly at her position. A massive bolt of golden lightning descended from above, its force so great that it shattered the surrounding mountains. Moments later, a figure emerged from the storm of thunder and lightning. She quickly stepped back to avoid its attack. The robot sneered at her, "The tiny human in the divine thunderstorm, you'll be wiped out like an insect." It raised its hand, gathering its energy. Seeing the power of the previous strike, she couldn't help but feel surprised. The force was on a completely different level. All the strength and money of the entire guild had been completely wasted over the past 2 days and nights. She closed her eyes, looking frustrated and unwilling to accept it. There was nothing more she could do. By this point, the robot had finished gathering energy, and it shouted loudly, "Die." Suddenly, someone appeared from nowhere. Han Yi Xiao looked down from above, sneering. "Hey, a big guy like you picking on a girl? Don't you have any shame?" The robot, enraged, shouted, "Who dares? How dare you stand above me?" Aimed a powerful strike directly at where he stood. Han Yi Xiao calmly warned, You're the one who attacked first. He gathered energy at the tip of his finger, and a stream of black energy appeared. Use this, Lan-Tian-Ji. He shot it straight at the lightning strike, and the two attacks collided. However, his Lan-Tian-Ji was stronger, and it pierced through the lightning strike. Lan-Tian-Ji shredded through layer after layer of the attack. The robot immediately recognized the technique and shouted, Lan-Tian-Ji, are you Wu Yu? Han Xiao responded from above. Humph, don't talk so much when you're about to die. The robot taunted, want to kill me? You must be delusional. As soon as he landed, Han Xiao immediately switched to Achila mode. At that moment, a red lightning bolt shot out, aimed directly at him. Just as the robot disappeared, a sword suddenly appeared. He was incredibly surprised and said, oh, did a mythical tier item just drop? But she was already quick on her feet, rushing over. She grabbed the sword and jumped backward, putting some distance between them, clearly on guard. He was still stunned, not understanding what she was doing. She hesitated before saying, this is. Before she could finish, he walked over and slapped her on the shoulder. It's yours. I just happened to pass by. My name's Han Xiao. Nice to meet you. You wouldn't believe it, but if you just leave it like that, he could kill me and take the item. She suddenly called him back. Han Xiao. He turned around, confused, and asked, what is it? What's going on? She said, the one thing I hate most in this world is owing someone. This weapon favor. I will definitely pay you back. At that moment in the arena, the commentator said, the skill's been torn apart. It's time to decide the winner. Around the battlefield, a red energy, like blood, began to surround both of them. The crowd eagerly awaited to see who would come out on top. After a while, the swirling energy started to dissipate. What everyone saw next left them completely stunned. It's Moon Slash. The winner is the player Moon Slash. The crowd, watching from the stands, erupted in cheers chanting his name. Moon Slash. Moon Slash. He wasn't paying attention to anything around him at that moment. He was focused on just one thing. Can you tell me news about my brother now? She fell silent. Lulai asked again, can you tell me news about my brother now? When she saw his image, she couldn't help but think of Han Xiao, which left her stunned. After a moment, she managed to calm herself. She closed her eyes and began telling him about the time she met Han Xiao. After defeating the robot, he repeatedly insisted that he didn't need any thanks from her. No need, he said. I was just passing by, like I said. That equipment is yours, and it has nothing to do with me. But she was determined to disagree. No, you defeated the boss and gave me the equipment. I have to repay you. Then just give me the equipment. At that time, you wouldn't owe me any favors. No, that equipment is really important for my guild. Then give it to me, I'll lose it. That way, you can earn it back? Still no. He was starting to feel helpless with her. She didn't want this, she didn't want that. What exactly did she want? She spoke up. Our guild offers escort and guidance services. Every time I guide you, the equipment and money are yours. I'll keep doing it until you've paid enough to buy back the equipment. Suddenly, he shouted loudly, watch out behind you. She quickly turned around in panic. Behind me? In front of her, there was a chicken catching a worm. She quickly turned her head back and saw him running off. She yelled and chased after him. Stop. Don't run. It wasn't right. They had been together, moving from place to place, from the moment they first met to when the weather started turning fall, and now, as winter had arrived, they were returning to the same spot again. They walked side by side, using their strength to fight off monsters. Right now, they were battling a giant dragon. The dragon withstood powerful blows from both of them. As soon as it landed, Han Xiao happily said, it's done. But suddenly, the dragon's tail whipped toward them. In instinct to protect him, she shoved him out of the way. Watch out for its tail. Seeing her badly injured, he called out in worry, Xiao Dao, I'm serious now. His fingers focused energy as he used the Lan-Tian finger technique, aiming directly at the dragon. The entire body of the dragon was struck through by his blow. Right after that, he landed on the ground. Worried, he ran toward her and called out, Xiao Dao, are you okay? She tried to sit up and said, cough, cough, I'm fine. He picked up her mask and then advised her, I'm stronger than you. Don't ever take that hit from me again. Hey, here's your mask. She took the mask from its hands and put it on. Looking sad, she said, thank you. My face. It seems like, but when you suddenly spoke, I didn't expect you to sound so sweet. Could it be that you wear a mask because you're worried about too many people chasing after you? She replied, there's no need to comfort me. Honestly, I really do have scars on my face. He said, that just makes you even cooler. I really think you're beautiful. You don't need to wear a mask at all. Hearing his words, she blushed, feeling shy. She stammered, well then, when we're together, I won't wear it anymore. That day, the snow in the sky created a beautiful scene for the two of them. At that moment, she touched her mask, feeling a mix of emotions. She spoke fondly of Han Xiao. Your brother and I have been teammates for a while now. He's really good, one of the best players out there. Lu Lai, hearing this, couldn't help but sigh. Wow, looks like she and my brother have feelings for each other. He then asked her, so when was the last time you saw him? Did he say what he wanted to do? She tried to recall and then said, The last time I saw him was on a clear, cool night with a full moon, as we sat together next to a warm fire. Han Xiao suddenly said, Xiao Dao, I think I need to leave the group. She was surprised and asked, why? He looked thoughtful and replied, there's something wrong with this game. Someone opened a door that they shouldn't have. She didn't care about his decision and just spoke her mind, then I'll go with you. He immediately refused, no, that place is something only I can go to. He suddenly fell silent. Then, in anger, she said, is this because you think I'm not good enough? Are you afraid I'll hold you back? He waved his hand dismissively. Of course not. I'll go quickly and come back. Once I'm offline, I'll invite you for hot pot. What do you think? He asked. She hesitated and replied, offline. Offline, huh? Hearing that they both planned to meet up, she couldn't help but blush, feeling a little embarrassed. Is this a date? He smiled and said, I have 2 younger brothers who are really interesting. You should definitely meet them. But all you can think about is the word date. After that day, they never met again. From that point on, there was no news about him. Lu Lai picked up on some important words from her story. The door shouldn't have opened right, he thought to himself. The gate his older brother mentioned and the infernal prison Wu Yu spoke of were definitely the same place. He asked, so, didn't he say where that gate was? She replied, no, he didn't. All right, this information is really important to me. Thank you so much. No problem. I'm also looking for him. If you hear anything about him, please let me know. Of course. At that moment, she remembered something Han Xiao had muttered before leaving, so she reminded him, by the way, I remember your brother mumbled before he left that if the door couldn't be closed, it would be everywhere. He was puzzled. Everywhere? Just then, the system sent a notification. Congratulations. Moon Slash has passed the selection and become the ultimate invincible warrior. Congratulations to the player Moon Slash. You will receive an enormous reward from His Majesty the King and will also have the privilege of choosing the primary gemstone to be embedded in your legendary weapon. As a player of Moon Slash, you also have the right to form a team to rescue the princess, and each member will have the opportunity to visit the king's treasury to pick up a treasure. Now let's have a grand awards ceremony for our audience at the arena. Please welcome the Moon Slash player to the stage. Inside the palace, the king, his body covered in machinery, coughed heavily. He was watching the entire battle through a mirror. He ordered his servant, there's no time left. Hurry and bring Moon Slash to me. Blood was flowing from his mouth. In the kingdom's floating castle, the servant led all 4 of them inside. He said, brave Moon Slash, the palace of the kingdom is right ahead. He sincerely added, I'm sorry, I'm not allowed to enter, so I can only bring you this far. Lu Lai replied, thank you for your hard work. The servant introduced, these 2 are the palace administrators, Zier Fa and Zhe Wu. They will be responsible for welcoming you. Both of them respectfully said, greetings, esteemed warriors. Please come in. The castle doors opened, revealing a grand interior. The 2 introduced, welcome warriors. This is the first floor of the outer hall, which is used for banquets and court receptions. Little Chili looked around at the surroundings, exclaiming, what magnificent architecture. Everywhere is covered in gold and jewels. A Fei couldn't help but mock, this is pure capitalist exploitation. Both of them invited the 4 people to follow them down to the basement. The king had ordered that each winning team could choose a treasure from his royal vault. Please follow me. The king's treasure vault is located below this palace. The 4 of them followed the 2 down. Xiao Chili couldn't help but exclaim, this place is so deep. It's so dark, I can't see anything. Zier Fa reminded them, please be careful. We'll lead the way. Watch your step. The floor here is very deep. Xiao Chili, feeling nervous, grabbed Afai's hand. It's so high up. I'm afraid of heights. Afai replied, if you're scared, just close your eyes. Don't worry, I'm here. I won't let you fall. He couldn't help but feel disgusted with the king. The king was really something, wasn't he? Not only did he have a grand treasure vault, but he also dug such a huge hole. It almost felt like he was digging it to collect water, and each person gets 1 treasure. Doesn't that mean there will be 4 treasures in total? The vault door opened, and Zier respectfully said, warriors, you have now arrived at the king's vault. Afi couldn't help but be amazed by this sight. Is this really the king's vault? The gold here is piled high enough to form a mountain. Afai and Xiao Chili's eyes were full of greed. Both of them quickly ran toward the treasure, competing with each other. It's mine! All of this is mine, they argued. Zier Fa looked at them, clearly confused. Each person is only allowed to take 1 item. Guo Xiao said, I don't need any more equipment. You can have my share. Lulai replied, no need, you need the equipment for tracking. Go ahead and pick something for yourself. At that moment, Huan Xiao secretly smiled to himself. He even knew exactly what he needed, yet he still acted like he didn't care. Zierfa and Zhe Erwu suddenly invited him to step aside. Moonslash, the king is waiting for you at the lowest level of the palace. Please meet with him first, then you can choose your treasures. Without hesitation, he agreed, all right. He silently descended, but in his mind, he was deep in thought. Suddenly, instead of continuing down the stairs, he jumped straight down to the lower level. Below, there was a cellar, and it was filled with water. He approached the king and asked, you wanted to see me? The king, who appeared weak and coughing, looked up at him. He showed a dangerous side of himself. You've arrived, huh? Hero, please have a seat. He summoned a chair from beneath him. At this moment, he was deep in thought. He looked at the man with suspicion in his eyes. I'm sure you're very suspicious right now. As the king of a nation, how could I be so nervous, and why would I be in such a hurry to invite you to meet with me like this? He didn't care about the man's intentions. He only had one question on his mind. I'm not interested in that. What I'm more curious about is why, if you want to save your daughter, aren't you sending all your warriors? Instead, you're wasting so much effort with this ridiculous competition, wasting everyone's time like this. The man weakly presented himself, acknowledging his own frailty. No wonder he was chosen as one of the elite warriors among thousands. You're not only talented in martial arts, but you're also gifted in intelligence. Well done. Suddenly, iron cuffs appeared from inside the chair, trapping both his arms and neck, causing him to panic. He admitted his thoughts. That's right, there was never any story about saving the princess and slaying the dragon here. The goal was always to choose the best physical vessel. He took off his cloak, revealing a face on his chest. A green energy surrounded him. He used regenerative restoration. His muscles bulged and he grew taller. He explained his purpose. I want to hold on to youth and strength once more through your body. I want my legend to be written again in the mortal world. At this point, you struggled to free yourself from the chair, but couldn't. He approached you, urging, don't waste your energy. The material of this lock is the last of the resources from the duel arena. He looked at your body with immense satisfaction. Such a perfect vessel. I don't want it to be damaged in any way. The face on his chest emitted a red light. He used a soul transfer regeneration spell on you. As his power entered, your face began to swell with veins. You were in extreme pain. Meanwhile, in the treasure room, the three of them were still happily choosing treasures, unaware of the danger that was about to strike. This teleportation device and the flute, I've wanted them for a long time. A Fey, which one do you think looks better? They both look great. Suddenly, Hu Xiao noticed something was wrong. She saw the two castle guards closing the door and shouted, Hey, why are you locking the door? What's going on? Zierfa now had a fierce expression on her face as she asked, What are you doing? Zierwu also wore a fierce look, still wanting to ask that question. Of course, they were going to kill him. Both of them used their energy to control the weapons in the treasury. They activated their royal hand skills, and all the treasures slowly transformed into battle armor for the two of them. The three of them were shocked. What was going on? All the weapons had been sucked into that. Weren't they NPCs? No matter whether they were NPCs or not, they decided to fight first and talk later. The three of them, undeterred, charged at the two. Huang Xiao shouted, Go! Ziver Wu controlled the armor and immediately grabbed her sword. Using the sword ring, Wind Fury, a terrifying gust of wind suddenly appeared around her, knocking all three of them back. The three of them struggled to regain their footing as the two of them looked down on them with contempt. How laughable. They want to be warriors, but this is just half the power of the Vault King's treasury. They couldn't even withstand this. Huang Xiao, now covered in wounds, couldn't help but sigh. That's really strong. Taking one hit and watching my health drop that fast, this feels like the difficulty of fighting a group of 50 players. At that moment, she realized something very important. Moonslash over there was definitely in danger. He was currently being overwhelmed by the energy of the king, which was invading his body, causing him to cry out in pain. The king began to tell a story from long ago. Why do emperors desire immortality? Is it for enjoyment, for power, or is it simply the fear of death? These are the desires of greedy fools who don't deserve to be emperors. My wish for eternal life is the wish of the people, the will of the era, and more than that, it is the will of God. The moment I open my eyes, this world is like a filthy butcher's block, and everyone is just fish waiting to be slaughtered on it. Upon closer inspection, this world is a monster that devours humans. Mountains, rivers, and lakes can all consume people, and in the end, humans have started to devour each other. Even the sky can't bear it, can it? That's why he chose me. At that moment, he was carrying heavy stones, exhausted, and fell asleep. Seeing this, the overseer here slapped him for dozing off. He shouted at the old man, displaying contempt and disdain. The king grew furious. He grabbed a rock from behind him and leaped forward, smashing it to death. At that moment, blood appeared in his mind. He rose up and declared, "Go and support me to overthrow and change this world." He and the other people took up their swords and fought. He wielded a massive sword, charging forward to lead the charge and slay the enemy. At that moment, his mind was filled with thoughts of blood. After a long and difficult battle, he raised his flag over the bodies of the fallen. "I have brought peace to this war-torn land, destroyed the demons. I have rebuilt, I have created my own nation, a nation that is rich and strong, and my bloodline has begun to be passed on." But then he began to weaken. He started coughing up blood. Just when his great achievements were starting to unfold, a group of high officials claimed that he was going to die. Am I really going to die? This world has light because of me, and people cannot live without the sun. A kingdom cannot live without its king. He stood on the castle and shouted loudly. "No, no way!" He shouted at the heavens, "You clearly chose me. Why are you abandoning me now? I can't die. I am willing to give everything." Suddenly an eye appeared, and from the sky, a voice echoed in response. "She granted my wish. She recognized me, and she inspired me." The next day, he set his castle on fire. The princess stood trembling on the ground, watching him. She was crying uncontrollably, unable to believe what was happening. "Father, are you out of your mind?" she asked. He looked at her with a blank expression. "Out of my mind? No, I'm more awake than I've ever been. For a noble cause, for a great journey, you all must become my nourishment. Be a part of this glory. Don't cry, my daughter. Don't cry. You just turned into light and returned to the sun. Everything is burned in the flames, back to the present." He continued, "And you, my dear, are the final step in my ascension. Be proud of that." He cried out in pain, and suddenly his body exploded into a burst of blood-red energy. He was stunned. What was happening? Now he was above, watching everything unfold. He sighed. It really was such a boring story. He looked up at him. Up there? What was that just now? Who was that? It was then that he realized the person he had seen earlier was just a decoy. The man sneered at him. "Don't act so holy with yourself. What's the difference between you and the greedy, shallow people you spoke of earlier?" He didn't listen to what you were saying and just stuck to his own point of view. "The ignorant ones can never understand my greatness," he shouted. "And you too. Once you're done, get down here quickly. Don't be dragging your feet." The two others jumped down to his side and immediately kneeled, respectfully saying, "Your Majesty, we apologize for being late." At that moment, he was stunned as he looked at the two who had just appeared. Wasn't that the voice of the two butlers? Could it be? The two of them admitted, "That's right. We easily defeated your three teammates." Angrily, he jumped down. "Do you want to die?" The two of them looked at him with disdain. "Want us to die? You overestimate yourself. I am the staff of the king, and I am the sword of the king, striking east and conquering the north." Both of them transformed into two sources of energy, which gathered into the king's hands. He shouted loudly, "King's protection, stop the iron, block the gold." The two transformed into a magic staff and a sword, and the energy he released now was overwhelming. He calmly spoke, "So-called warriors are nothing more than a title you've been given. Killing you is as easy as crushing an ant." The little chili pepper pouted as she held the virtual reality headset in front of her and complained, "What the heck is this? No reward? Why did the NPC suddenly turn into a boss?" She voiced her frustration to her older sister sitting next to her. "Isn't the power level crazy? One move, and they just kill you." Huo Qiao, sitting in the chair to the left, was also wearing her own VR headset and explained maybe a hidden quest was triggered. She said this with a serious tone, carefully analyzing the situation. "That's probably it. My prediction was wrong. The difficulty of those two bosses could be as high as a 100-player raid. Moonlight is handling it alone." She stretched her arm, trying to loosen up her muscles so they wouldn't get stiff. Then she stared off into the distance, wondering how much longer she could hold out. The little chili pepper guessed maybe about 30 minutes. "Do you want some coffee? You might be up all night," Huo Qiao suggested. Bored, the little chili pepper glanced at her sister. "I want a banana latte." Outside, the sky was covered with dark clouds, and thunder rumbled as it shrouded the city in darkness. A few lightning bolts struck below. Inside his room, a face stood by the window, lighting a cigarette. "It's raining hard again," he muttered. He sat quietly, staring ahead, and muttered to himself, what am I even doing? In the end, I still can't do anything to help my brother." He sighed, his face filled with worry. After thinking for a while, he crushed the cigarette he was holding into the ashtray on the table. Xiao, a Fai, dressed and sitting in a chair, entered the virtual world. "Big brother, hang in there, we'll be there soon." Beside his chair was another person half sitting, their face unclear. Swish! A streak of light zipped across the water like a pair of wings in flight. Splash, splash. The light created ripples that burst and echoed out. Lu Lai brandished his sword and rushed toward the king. He quickly flew closer, the tip of his sword inches from the king's eyes, preparing to pierce through. He kept slashing at Giant. The king calmly blocked each of his strikes with his own sword, effortlessly defending against all attacks. At that moment, Lu Lai's eyes turned red. His face darkened. He swiftly moved behind the king, leaving behind a trail of red lightning. The king remained standing motionless. A mechanical voice rang out. Backlash paralysis critical hit. Lu Lai swung his sword in rapid succession, landing blow after blow that sent the king flying. Waves of water surged from his powers, swirling endlessly. The king stood at a distance, a burn mark on his left side from the attack. The electric current still crackled over him, continuing to assault him. Unbelievable, Giant muttered. He turned around, using his sword to create a swirling circle aimed directly at him. Lu Li couldn't believe what he was seeing. The robotic voice echoed, and the sword unleashed a violent gust of wind. The tall stone wall behind him shattered into pieces, falling to the ground. The cracks in the wall made a sharp noise, and sparks flew from the joints as they strained under pressure. The water below them started to form tough ice chunks around Lu Lai. The man looked at him and sneered. This move didn't hit you because I don't want to damage my new vital energy in any way. His face clearly showed his smugness. When you see the difference, just accept my baptism peacefully. He pointed the sword at him. You people have never seen such waves and storms before. Did you really think that after killing a few small monsters and fighting a few battles, you'd be able to challenge someone like me? A person who stepped out of the blood-soaked mountains and hell. Waves of energy spread out in layers beneath his feet. Lu Lai stared at Giant, feeling a deep sense of fear. This wasn't just a difference in levels, it was something more. He knew he couldn't freeze up now. If he let fear take over, there'd be no chance at all. Jane watched him move, preparing to attack again, utterly unshaken. The robotic voice echoed once more, white hidden. A blue clone appeared as Lu Lai passed through a layer of energy. It jumped around everywhere, then ran off, moving high above the ground. It drove the sword into the wall and held a small tube right to its mouth. Direct confrontation was impossible. The difference in points was just too great. It could only engage in guerrilla tactics and wait for reinforcements. It stared intently down below. He smiled, his eyes glaring white. Oh, so you want to play cat and mouse with me? He looked down on all of his preparations. I'm not a cat, I'm a tiger. The energy circle was activated, spinning, moving under Giant's feet. He lowered his sword, letting it sink into the ground, absorbing half of it. The power of the wind and storm, controlling gravity, created a strong force that pulled everything in the space downwards. Boom, boom, boom. The force was so strong it felt like being crushed by 1,000 tons, making it impossible for Giant to move. He struggled to resist, his face scrunching up in pain, one eye squeezed shut from the agony. It's too heavy. Your body almost seems like just a blur, he thought. The gravity kept bearing down on him, and the man laughed cruelly. Got you now. Giant charged forward, accompanied by his clone. His eyes were bloodshot, filled with murderous intent. The clone attacked as well, and together they rushed to strike the king. The man simply swung his large sword and blocked both attacks at once. Giant quickly formed a shield in front of him. The man's movements were so fast, only afteridges were left behind. Both Giant and his clone could only retreat quickly. Your clone technique is interesting, the man said with a smirk. Once I've got you under control, I'll have to give it a try myself. He raised the sword high, glowing brightly in red. From a distance, he saw an opening and rushed in. Lu Lai pointed his sword at the king. The king immediately dropped his scepter and sword, using both hands to tightly grip Lu Li's sword. Suddenly, two ghostly souls, one red and one blue, appeared beside him. They stood still. The king is not alone in the great mountains ahead of him, a voice said. Zier Wu, in soul form, crawled out the sword. When did you think you were fighting alone? The king said with a cunning smile, manipulating gravity and activating energy to force Lu Lai down deeper. The two stewards had transformed into weapons, but now they could move on their own. It was like facing three bosses at once. Lu Lai frowned, shocked. His left earring began to glow, and he couldn't hold back anymore. The sword laughed happily. Sis, you're not going to crush His Majesty's new energy just with a little force, right? The red scepter hurriedly responded, No, don't talk nonsense. I just nudged him lightly. The king stood there with his arms crossed, looking down at the water, which started to ripple in small waves. Your Majesty, be careful. The two weapons warned in unison. A sharp, icy jet of water shot out, grazing his face and leaving a bleeding cut. Giant's expression darkened as he sneered cruelly. Oh, how interesting. This new form of yours is full of surprises, huh? Lu Lai transformed, using the illusion god earring on his left ear, turning into a fishman clasped with a shark tail. Waves of water constantly swirled around him. A red jade earring appeared. The illusion god's earring, a mythical artifact, could change one's race. After the transformation, it would grant the physical traits of the new race, its passive racial abilities, and mastery of its language. This included common races like humans, elves, merfolk, and many other classes. A compliment from the illusion god. Do you think changing your mask will really change your life? He activated the power of the illusion god, transforming into the fishman class. His body became that of a merfolk, complete with a shark tail. As he swished it, the surface of the water rippled. The king, furious, threw his sword and shouted, "How dare you!" But the fishman class summoned water, diving straight into the deep pool. Calmly, he swam away, using the illusion god's power. The merfolk race's passive ability increased his underwater speed by 100% and allowed him to stay submerged for much longer. The fishman dived deeper, clearly seeing the king's furious face above, his anger so intense it was almost palpable. The king was itching to deal with him, to strike him down in one blow. Where did you run off to? Get out here. Then, a few bubbles suddenly rose to the surface of the water. Immediately, the fishman class unleashed its power, causing columns of water to rise and surround the king. The king looked around in panic, trembling as he shouted, "Quick, this is moving fast." Then the fishman surfaced, moving with incredible speed, circling around behind the king. Taking advantage of the king's momentary distraction, the fishman prepared to strike. But when he saw the king standing still, he quickly dashed off, as if setting up a strategy. Once done, he circled back around to the king's rear. With his speed, the water beneath him splashed violently into the air. The fishman took a leap, stepping on the king's sword and jumping high. He shouted in frustration, "Get out of the way now." The whirlpools beneath him continued to churn. Water splashed everywhere. At this moment, the fishman was surrounded by a red glow. His eyes burned with anger as he grit his teeth in discomfort. Then he activated his pigman class ability. His body transformed into that of a pigman, with pink skin, large sharp tusks, and an ominous aura surrounding him. The pigman class gained a racial passive ability. Strength increased by 20%, but intelligence decreased by 20%. It also had self-healing abilities. The pigman class unleashed its special attack, Crushing Strike. As he charged forward, bolts of red and yellow lightning crackled around him as he sped straight toward the king. The king calmly raised his fist to meet his scepter, preparing to block the fishman's attack. Knowing he couldn't win, the pigman class quickly retreated a few meters, creating 2 waves of water as he moved. Zierfa, in the form of a staff, anxiously looked at the king's hand. "Your Majesty, your hand." Then, in a fit of rage, he yelled directly at him, "Die already." The deep gash on the pigman class's hand began to heal on its own, thanks to the power of the hidden god. Suddenly, applause rang out. It was the king leisurely receiving the magical healing from the staff. Impressive. Moo/ha, he actually surprised me. The staff continued to urgently channel magic into the king. "Your Majesty, I'll treat you right away." The staff grinned slyly. "I must admit, your aura really pleases me." The king's eyes were completely white, and his face twisted into a maniacal grin. "I see now. You must be the sword bestowed upon me by the heavens to match my unparalleled weapon." He controlled the sword and directed it toward the pigman class, speaking arrogantly. "Not bad. Do you have any other hidden skills you'd like to show me?" Hearing this nonsense, the pigman class stayed silent. He kept his fierce expression, glaring at the king. His sky-cleaving slash basically couldn't hurt him. Looks like it's time to gamble on this move. Immediately, the pigman class activated the Team Long Tae Iron skill, summoning a massive, ferocious dragon head that let out an earth-shattering roar. The terrifying sound caused the water below to surge violently. The king, stunned by the majestic sight, couldn't help but marvel at it. "Oh, this move! With such a spectacular skill," he remarked, clearly impressed. "The visual effects are pretty impressive when you watch it on a screen. Let me test its true power myself and see just how strong it really is." The pigman class, furious, his face veins bulging, glared and shouted, "Take this!" The dragon opened its massive mouth wide and advanced toward the king. The king wasn't caught off guard. He quickly raised his sword, his blade channeling a powerful wind as he struck with a fierce slash, carrying a murderous intent as he clashed with the dragon's attack. In an instant, the dragon's attack shattered and the king smirked confidently. "That's all it is," he said. Suddenly, something felt off. He froze for a moment and the massive waves began to rise again. It wasn't until the pigman class launched a surprise attack from the side that the king realized what had happened. Another clone? Damn, I've been tricked. The pigman class then used the Team Long Tae Iron skill again to raise the waves, and the dragon's mouth opened wide once more, directly swallowing the king. However, something exploded, shattering the dragon's head and causing the surrounding walls to collapse. Fragments of stone flew everywhere. The pigman class stood frozen, watching in shock as the debris fell into the water. Sweat poured down his face as he stared in fear. There was a thick cloud of smoke lingering in the air. In the middle of the smoke, a red light suddenly flickered. So the staff activated the magic, creating a protective shield around the king. He coughed uncontrollably, still reeling from the hit. I take back what I said earlier. This move isn't too bad after all. He was badly injured, wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth with his hand. But now that I think about it, your plan is even better than this. The king quickly descended, holding the staff in one hand and a sword in the other, growing impatient as he approached. There's not much time left. Let's finish this game. At this point, he was exhausted, sweat pouring down like rain, staring at the king while calculating his next move. The king had weakened a lot, which meant the previous attack had worked. Next, the king activated the power from the staff, slamming it hard against the water's surface, causing a huge splash. 2 streams of red magic shot out. His eyes turned bloodshot, and in a fit of rage, he roared, casting a forceful wind spell, controlling the elements. The furious waves rushed toward him, and a magical seal surrounded him, trying to drown in the water. Suddenly, the king raised the staff, and the 2 magic streams manipulated the water, trapping him in a massive orb of deep blue water. He frowned in frustration, biting his lip, holding his breath as he activated his own magic. Illusion God class fishman. Suddenly, 5 large tree trunks shot out towards him, aiming to crush him. It was clear that the king had controlled these tree trunks to block his escape. You're not getting away this time. The king raised his scepter forward, his face twisted into a sinister grin, clearly enjoying himself. Accept the baptism and dedicate your life to my great journey, Moon/Warrior. At that moment, there was no trace of humanity left in his face, just pure wicked amusement. Or should I call you the Moon/Player instead? The hidden secret suddenly shattered, and he stared in shock, his eyes wide in disbelief as he stammered. What? What are you saying? The king, standing casually outside, looked at him and revealed, or should I just call you a player? The fishman class, stunned and unable to believe what he was hearing, faltered. What are you saying? The king raised his scepter high, a smug smile on his face, and shared what he knew. Hard to believe, isn't it? The Lord revealed the secrets of this world to me. Then he closed his eyes, paused for a moment, and spoke with a tone of mockery. Player is quite a proud title, isn't it? I still remember the moment I encountered those mechanical squares and those huge eyes, shining light everywhere. The truth is, the Lord told me that our existence, and even the existence of this world, is just a tool to please all of you. Every blade of grass, every flower, every conversation, and the way everyone expresses themselves are all part of the design. At that moment, the king, looking thin and dazed, lifted his hands as if seeking to be granted something. At first, I thought it was terrifying, just a metaphor from the Lord, until the Lord enlightened me with wisdom. Immediately, the data from God began to change him. That was when I suddenly realized the harsh truth of this world. Everything within me has no cause and effect. My mind is left with only fragmented memories. Every day, every hour, every moment of my life is bound by unending repetitive rules. I, Jane, the king supported by thousands of people. The savior of this era is just a pawn for your players to enjoy. Now as I face you, the king reveals all his hidden ambitions. But I will not accept this fate. I am the king chosen by God, and I want to live to overthrow it. Then he slammed his staff down, thrusting his sword into the ground, causing waves of water to surge forward endlessly. You are the invaders of this world, and I want to expel all of you from here. The staff excitedly spoke. Your Majesty, the king, the sword immediately continued. Your merits are eternal. Your reign will last for ages. The fishman class was still imprisoned. Panicked, he stared at him and thought, does the database actually have the ability to think independently? How is this even possible? This doesn't make any sense. What exactly is this God he's talking about? The source of all these anomalies must be related to it. He created a large sphere around himself and entered the water sphere. I'm very curious, after you take the bodies of those called players, where will your souls go? The fishman class faced him, hesitating for a moment before speaking up. I have one last question. The king nodded, clearly unbothered. Go ahead, ask. Don't waste my time. He asked calmly, do you know someone named Han Yi Xiao? The king closed his eyes, thinking for a moment. It seemed like something clicked in his mind. Han Yi Xiao. The name sounds familiar, but he didn't elaborate further, casually mocking him. Well, you can go to hell and ask there. As the king grinned, the fishman's eyes suddenly flashed a bright red. In an instant, he activated his shape-shift skill, turning into a pigman class. A surge of red lightning shot directly at the king. The king froze, his mouth hanging open in shock, stammering, not again, not again. Another transformation. With a single strike, the fishman knocked him down. Quickly, he switched back to his fishman form and made a dash for the door in the wall, letting out a relieved sigh. Thankfully, he'd already placed his clone in a safe spot beforehand. The red glow from his earring flickered, and he felt a moment of panic, drenched in sweat. His shapeshift skill had a 30-minute cooldown. He couldn't afford to get caught now. In a split second, he transformed again, this time into a lizard people class. With the lizard people's passive ability, his climbing speed increased by 50% and he activated his stealth skill. Using his enhanced abilities, he swiftly crawled along the castle walls, moving with ease. Below, the king stood still, glaring at the water sphere he had created. His face darkened, frustration clear in his voice. This new ability of mine is so unreliable. I guess I'll have to break your arms and legs first before I can heal them properly. Immediately, he used his magical power, making the water orb soar high into the air, leaving droplets that splashed back down below. The king swung his scepter and angrily shouted, "Windstorm force, control the elements, freeze." At once, the water orb turned into a massive block of ice. He was crawling along the wall, staring up in surprise. Seeing the sharp ice blocks before him, he sensed something was wrong. "This is bad. The exit is blocked." The king stood below, his eyes gleaming with malice, a wicked smile spreading across his face as he said, "It's not over yet." As soon as the words left his mouth, he raised his scepter high again and controlled the ice orb, causing the blocks of ice to fall like a downpour, splashing loudly into the water. The ice made the surrounding temperature drop even further. The lizard people class halted, feeling uncomfortable, their movements slow and labored as they panted heavily. Phew. At that moment, a huge block of ice came rushing toward him. He looked up, stunned, and murmured, "It's so cold that my body is starting to stiffen." He stood there frozen, unable to move. To explain a bit, lizards are cold-blooded creatures, so their body temperature changes with the environment and they can't regulate it themselves. Just like that, the ice block crashed into him, knocking him off the wall and sending him tumbling into the water. The king stood atop the frozen surface, watching him fall, and arrogantly said, "You can't escape my grasp." The lizard-like man from the lizard people class slammed down hard onto the ice, creating a loud crash. He then controlled sharp shards of ice, driving them into the man's body, pinning him down. The man's eyes bulged, and he screamed in agony. The king immediately raised the ice platform that impaled him, taunting, "Go ahead, try running now. Let's see how you'll manage to escape this time." The man was in pain, his eyes half closed as he struggled to stay conscious. "I have escape skills," he thought. The king rushed toward him, grabbing his throat, intent on stealing his reincarnation power. Dark red lightning shot out from the king's body, striking straight into the man's terrified eyes. Suddenly, the king paused, sensing something was off. He turned his head, but didn't realize that a red mist had appeared in the ice sphere above them, melting the iced and dripping water down onto them. The red mist then transformed into a massive flame, shattering the king's ice bridge. It was a blazing explosion. His teammates had broken the ice, bringing with them a surge of scorching fire that tore through the king's attack. The king quickly leaped away, dodging the red flames. Without missing a beat, Huo Qiao shot toward him, launching a powerful kick with the Hem-Sun technique. Purple energy surged from her, striking the king directly. The force of the magic hit him hard, shattering the ice into countless pieces. The small chili pepper, with both hands carrying flames, called out, "Moon slash, right?" A Fei immediately called out to his older brother. Huo Qiao, with a determined look, told her husband, "We're here." The king stood in the middle of the thick, dusty smoke. Xever Fa, holding a staff, exclaimed in surprise, "Is it really them?" "How can that be?" "Your Majesty, we really did kill them with our own hands last time," one of his men replied. Zier Wu confirmed as well. "That's right, they definitely died from the storming sword strikes." The king angrily interrupted them. "Stop talking. These players are definitely some kind of abnormal race. If they can die and then possess players, we must turn all of them into energy for myself in the future." Over here, Lu Lai, trapped on ice, quietly warned his teammates, "Be careful of the face on the king's chest." Hearing that, A Fei was shocked and asked, "A face on his chest?" The small chili pepper made a disgusted expression. "Ugh, that's really gross." He then continued to explain the face's abilities. "Yeah, he uses that face to perform the soul-snatching skill. It might not just be about dealing damage to game characters." A Fei, though, wasn't too concerned about that and moved closer to him. "Never mind the face thing for now. Let's save you first and talk later." The small chili pepper, who was tending to his wounds, nodded in agreement. "I was thinking the same thing." On the opposite side, the king ordered the sword and scepter to get rid of these pests. They both responded in unison. "Yes, Your Majesty, we obey your command." Xever Fa, who had transformed into a humanoid figure sitting on the scepter, looked down at the group of Lu Lai and spoke angrily. "Damn, you all are making us look bad in front of His Majesty. In that case, I'll turn you into a pile of shredded meat." A Fei looked up and said to Xiao La, the small chili pepper, "Let's take care of her first." With that challenge thrown down, both of them launched their attacks. A swarm of fire meteors and countless fiery sparks shot towards Zerfa. Gravitational shields formed around her, creating a protective circle that blocked the attacks from Fei and Ciola. The two continued to generate fire blasts aimed at her, but the entire wave of attacks was stopped by the protective barrier. Zerfa laughed loudly. This is supposed to be magic. Fei and Ciola exchanged glances and nodded. Then they each placed a hand on the others, performing a magic fusion. Dual fusion technique, Fire Dragon's Wrath. Their combined strike unleashed two powerful fire whirlwinds that swept through the area. Zerfa was blinded by the light of the fire and had to raise her hand to shield her face as the flames spread everywhere. Holding her staff cautiously, she stood in the middle of the rain and fire surrounding her, furiously shouting at those nearby. The fusion skill of these two idiots melted the ice, causing fog and rain to cover this place, reducing visibility. Amid the mist, sparks of fire kept flashing. On the other side, Huo Xiao and Zhe Erwu were nearly locked in close combat. As she threw countless punches, he countered with a flurry of sword strikes to block them. Huo Xiao used the mountain-crushing fist technique, summoning massive fists around her. She swung her arm, and the giant fists launched towards Zhe Erwu in unison. He raised his sword to block from behind, growling in anger at her. You think you can suppress me with just this? You're a fool if you think you can defeat me with your weak attacks. Huo Xiao shot him a cold stare and replied, Don't even dream about it. With a flash, the fist transformed into a barrage of guns, firing relentlessly at Zhe Erwu. He was knocked back, and the sword slipped from his hands. Did this woman really have the strength to back up her accusations? The sword flew back into the hands of the king. Terrified, he spoke up, trying to explain himself. Your Majesty. But the king cut him off, his voice full of rage. Shut up. Don't even think about raising your sword at Huo Xiao. He raised his blade high, and an aura of cold blue energy surrounded him. His eyes glowed red as he growled, No one is allowed to waste my time. Huo Xiao frowned and muttered, This strength is incredible. He swung his sword powerfully, sending a wave of fiery red sword energy that shattered the icy floor and surged forward. Lu Lai, alert, shouted, Be careful. A little chilly, get ready to counterattack. Are we really using this move again? Huo Xiao stared ahead, tense and preparing to defend. At that moment, a beam of light appeared, accompanied by a voice saying, Do not be afraid in the darkest of times, for light will surely come with the dawn. Then, a familiar group of people appeared, shouting. The guild Breaks Understanding arrived to help. Shu Guang immediately raised his shield to block the attack. The sword energy hit his shield and bounced back, striking the king. He had to raise his sword to block, letting out a grunt of pain. Lu Lai stared in surprise at the group that had just shown up. How did they get here? Fei happily slung his arm around Lu Lai's shoulders and explained, We discussed strategies as soon as we logged in. I figured a few people wouldn't be enough to handle this boss, so I called in teammates from all over, and it just so happened that they were all nearby. Shu Guang turned around, his voice filled with righteousness, and said, No fight, no friendship. From now on, we're friends, but let's not forget to share the loot. We'll split the rewards 50-50s. How does that sound? Lu Lai agreed cheerfully, no problem. Meanwhile, Little Chili disagreed, we're one person short. This isn't fair. Feng Yan grinned and laughed. Forget about that for now. Then he quickly charged forward, enthusiastically shouting, Let me see what kind of boss even Moon Slash can handle. Shu Guang quickly gave orders to his team. Old 3, attack from a distance. Old 5, support with control. Old 2, the rest of us will attack with Old 4. Everyone responded in unison. Understood. Feng Ye swung his sword down from above, aiming at the king. The king blocked the strike with his sword and then, with a swift side slash, easily knocked Feng Ye away. Feng Ye spun midair and landed, immediately jumping up to charge again. Not bad, this is getting interesting, the king remarked. The lightning sword also rushed in, joining Feng Ye to attack the king together. The king slammed his staff hard into the ground, using a gravity-based technique that sent powerful waves of force, knocking both attackers away. A strange blue light flashed and countless arrows shot toward the king, successfully knocking the staff out of his hands. Demonic Arrow grinned, announcing, Weapon disabled. Suddenly, tree trunks shot up from the ground, wrapping around the king's feet. TNT and ordered the wood spirit to restrain his movements. The spirit then created countless vines that tightly bound the king's arms and legs. Feng Ye raised his sword, preparing to unleash the blue wolf strike. The sword energy took the shape of a wolf head with glowing red eyes beside him. At the same time, Lightning Sword called upon a storm, summoning lightning from the sky. Both of them charged, accompanied by the wolf-shaped energy and crackling golden lightning, attacking the king. The mixed blue and yellow light flashed, reflecting the fierce expression on the king's face. The two streams of energy collided with the king at once. When the streams of energy intersected, they created a powerful vortex of energy that enveloped all three of them. Feng Ye and Lightning Sword stood on either side, each driving their sword into the king's body. Feng Ye gritted his teeth and yelled, "Die." But just then, Lightning Sword sensed something was wrong and quickly shouted to stop him, "No allow see, keep your distance." The king growled back, "It's too late." With both hands, he grabbed the swords in their hands and effortlessly lifted them up. Feng Ye, unwilling to give up, kicked wildly, shouting, "Let it go, hurry." The king tightened his grip, breaking one of Feng Ye's arms, then twisted and broke Lightning Sword's arm as well. After that, he flung both of them away in opposite directions. From a high vantage point, Demonic Arrow seized the opportunity and fired a shadowless arrow. The arrow curved and aimed straight at the king's chest, but the king easily dodged, caught the arrow, and threw it back at him. "Here, take it back." Demonic Arrow was struck by his own arrow, pinned to the wall. Then the king swung his hand, delivering a powerful punch that immediately destroyed the wooden spirit. Tien, terrified, cried out, "Summon my beast." Panicking, she took a few steps back and shakily said to the king, "No, don't come here." Just as he swung a punch toward her, Xu Guang quickly jumped in, holding her shield in front of them. She happily called out, "Boss," while he quickly told her, "Adjust your position and keep your distance." The king, seeing this, became enraged. He pounded relentlessly on Xu Guang's shield, saying, "You really like playing the defender, huh? Let's see how long you can keep it up." He tightened his grip on the shield, coldly responding, "This shield is for protecting my friends, and anyone who hurts them will face more than just a shield." He sneered, and one side of his face began to twist into a grotesque shape, revealing a fiery red pupil. Half of Xu Guang's body transformed, radiating a surge of power. It looked as if he were surrounded by hellish flames, with a red glint flashing in his eyes and a sword gripped tightly in his hand. He kept swinging his sword, fighting off the constant barrage of punches from the king. The king's fists collided with Xu Guang's sword, sending shockwaves of powerful energy radiating in all directions. Over on this side, Lu Lai also gave orders to his teammates. "Charge!" They immediately scattered in different directions. Xiao Qi ran to Demonic Arrow's side, helping him pull the arrow out of his body while quietly comforting him. "Hang in there." A Fei went to Feng Ye, helped him up, and handed him a healing potion. "Wolf, take this." Guaxiao gave a potion to Lightning Sword. Xu Guang let out a roar, swinging his sword as he launched two quick strikes at the king. While the king raised his hands to block, Lu Lai swiftly moved behind him, plunging his sword directly into the king's chest. As they both landed on the ground, Lu Lai delivered another strike, this time to the king's back. The king slightly turned, glaring at Lu Lai with a warning. "Moonslash, my patience with you has reached its limit." But at that moment, every member from both teams unleashed their powers, charging forward to attack him. Fa and Zhe Wu and their sword and staff forms recognized the danger and rushed forward. "Your Majesty," countless streams of colorful energy shot out from the floating palace above. Then, a massive explosion erupted, lighting up the sky. The people below looked up in shock and whispered, "Did you hear that explosion? That's the Royal Air Fortress." The guards, panicked, shouted, "Hurry, gather the bodyguards." On the fortress, everyone anxiously watched as the smoke and dust slowly began to clear. All the damage had already been dealt. How is it? Has it been dealt with already? As the smoke finally faded, the figures of Fa and Zhe Wu, both severely wounded, appeared, holding a protective shield in front of the king. The king, standing behind them, was completely unharmed. They immediately rushed over, concerned, and asked, "Your Majesty, are you all right? Are you injured?" He coughed, covering his mouth, and praised them. "I'm fine. You did well." But then, without warning, he pierced both of their bodies with his bare hands. They stared at him in shock. "Your Majesty, why? Why would you do this?" His response was cold and judgmental. "You're loyal, but your power is still too weak. It's better if I handle this myself." Seeing this, the members of both teams rushed in, but still, they couldn't believe what they were witnessing. One of them said in disbelief, "He's still not dead. The damage from earlier must have been absorbed by those two guardians. What is he doing?" With a swift motion, the king raised his hands, each holding a gem, one green, the other red, before his chest. His eyes gleamed with intensity as he shouted at Lu Lai, "Moonslash, it looks like I won't need you to focus on your energy anymore. I'll make sure those who intrude pay the price." The next day, he brought with him two massive bursts of energy, one blue and one red, and slammed them into the ground, unleashing a powerful attack called the Royal Tempest. The strike created a whirlwind around him, centered on his position. The shockwave from the energy blast spread out, covering the entire kingdom with two energy currents, one blue, one red. The impact continued to ripple outward, shaking the land, and the force was so intense that rocks and debris in the city kept falling. The people below screamed in panic, "Earthquake! Run! Hurry! Somebody help!" The guide, dressed in a black suit, nervously pointed and said to Hua Shui beside him, "My lord." Hua Shui looked up in disbelief. How could this be possible? They stood there, staring at the rising flames engulfing the high fortress, with debris falling relentlessly. The entire floating fortress was being consumed by fire. Meanwhile, inside the fortress, the king stood tall on the flooded floor created by the battle, watching the smoke slowly clear. Among the scattered wreckage, the shield and cloak of Shu Guang were visible, lying on the ground. On one side, Lu Lai seemed severely injured, leaning back against the broken stone walls, struggling to stay upright. The king stepped toward him, clearly pleased, and said with admiration, "You're still alive? Truly, this is my destiny, or my true fate." At that moment, in his subconscious, Lu Lai silently activated the random divine scripture. A book with a cover featuring an embossed face of a jester quickly appeared. Ding, the sound of the system announcing the successful activation of the random divine scripture echoed. The divine scripture alone had the power to kill a ruler. To defeat such a king, one would simply need to use their absolute strength to make the opponent weep in despair. The king stood outside, deep in thought as he observed Lu Lai. He felt quite intrigued and speculated. "What's this? You still have a backup move, don't you?" Lu Lai didn't hide it and nodded in acknowledgement. "One final move," he said, immediately after he activated his Atula mode, surrounded by a fiery red energy that clashed with the king. This caught the king off guard, and he couldn't help but admire him. "Honestly, I'm starting to respect you. Even now, at this point, your will is still so strong." In the blink of an eye, the two of them rushed at each other like lightning. Lu Lai unleashed numerous streams of energy that formed sharp, spear-like shapes, crossing each other to create a web aimed at the king. The king braced himself and blocked all of Lu Lai's attacks, but inside, he felt a bit of disdain and thought his speed and strength have definitely increased, but it's still just this much. At that very moment, a hand suddenly appeared in front of him. The king was stunned. "What's this?" Before he could react, Lu Lai casually grabbed his face with one hand and effortlessly slammed him to the ground. But the king immediately grabbed onto Lu Lai's hand. A burst of intense red energy erupted from his palm, and with a powerful punch, he sent Lu Lai flying backward. The king's massive figure then soared into the air, landing on a tall platform before launching another strike. A strong punch followed, sending Lu Lai crashing back down to the ground. From above, the king tightly clenched both of his fists and raised them, preparing to strike down on Lu Lai beneath him. However, as his attack descended, Lu Lai managed to block it with both hands. The king, sensing a change in Lu Lai, immediately realized something. His power was still increasing, and there was something else behind him. Lu Lai's appearance shifted into the Atula state, with white hair and a red horn on his forehead. The battle intent building up around his soul gradually formed a fierce, demon-like face, which was a special feature of this form. The more battle intent he gathered, the more his attributes would increase. Once the battle intent was fully condensed, it would unleash the wrath of Atula. In this mode, no defense or evasion was possible. Even for a moment, if avoided, the battle intent would scatter, and it wouldn't be able to condense again for a while. He gripped the king's arms tightly, using them as leverage to push off and launch a powerful strike into the king's face. The horn on his forehead jabbed directly into the king's head. The king immediately swung his hand, sending waves of energy to force Lu Lai back. "Get out of here, you crazy bastard." But Lu Lai quickly regained his balance and charged at the king again. The two collided in close combat once more, exchanging punches, kicks, and magic in fierce clashes. Lu Lai landed a powerful punch to the king's face, and in return, the king drove a heavy blow straight into his stomach. Their fists collided. The energy released from the impact sent rocks and debris flying through the air. Both of them were like sharp streaks of light, constantly clashing against each other. Their speed was so fast that their afterimages stretched out, overlapping and crisscrossing the lines of energy. The king once again sent Lu Lai flying across the platform. Sweating and bewildered, he muttered to himself, "I clearly broke his ribs and arms, but why is he getting even more ferocious? He's gone crazy, definitely insane." Lu Lai was battered and slammed into the wall, but he stared ahead with a dark expression and a faint, mocking smile. In the next moment, as if the pain and exhaustion meant nothing to him, he charged at the king again. The battle between the two caused dust and smoke to rise, filling the air. From below, onlookers could see violent bursts of energy shooting out from the floating castle above. The man in the black suit, worried, turned to Hua Shui next to him and said, "The teleportation portal to the castle has been destroyed. What's happening up there?" Clenching his fist, he nervously speculated it must be some reckless dragon trying to attack His Majesty the King. At that moment, a figure fell from the sky. The man pointed up and said, "Sir, look, isn't that the warrior from earlier?" Hua Shui quickly ordered, "Save him immediately." Meanwhile, on the floating castle, the king covered his mouth and coughed up blood. He glared at Lu Lai, secretly making up his mind. There could be no more delays. If he couldn't capture him, the only choice left would be to destroy him. With a burst of force, he leaped high into the air, wielding 2 bolts of lightning, one red, one blue, and shouted, "Disappear." From above, he brought both attacks together into one powerful blow, unleashing a royal storm of force. Lu Lai calmly closed his eyes, then gently swung his hand to disperse the king's storm-like strike. The king, in horror, screamed, "Impossible." Lu Lai swung his hand again, launching a fierce strike toward the king. Achulachino. A massive, blood-red demon face appeared behind the king, unleashing all of its battle fury at him. Under this attack, the king's body seemed to be devoured by an evil force, splitting him in 2. The huge wave of energy dissipated, causing a rain of blood to fall onto the battlefield. The defeated king, his body split in 2, lay before Lu Lai. He was horrified, crawling up with half of his body, looking at Lu Lai like a demon from hell standing in front of him. In a trembling voice, he whispered, "No." His massive body, which had been so strong just moments ago, seemed to drain away, shrinking rapidly until it was just a bundle of bones. His eyes were filled with panic as he repeatedly muttered, "No." Then he reached both hands up to the sky as if praying to some higher power and shouted desperately, "I don't want to die. I don't want to die. Stavey, please, I offer my soul to you. I swear to serve you faithfully. Infernal purgatory. Please save your servant." Lu Lai was stunned when he heard those words, "Infernal purgatory." Just as the king's prayer ended, a rift in space suddenly appeared above them. Meanwhile, Huafi Shui and the others who were on their way saw the wounded warriors lying scattered across the ground. He quickly deduced that these warriors had been protecting the king after being gravely injured by the evil dragon they had fallen here. He feared for the king's life as the intense battle raged on and didn't know what to do. Seeing the person in front of him standing still, Huafi Shui shouted, "Hey, why are you just standing there? Hurry up and help everyone." But suddenly his attention was caught by the sky, which was slowly turning a shade of pinkish purple. Unsure of what was happening, he watched as a rift in space appeared in the sky. He guessed that this was like the apocalypse of the world. From the crack in space, the image of a man appeared, laughing madly and shouting joyfully, "And rejoice, for God is answering me. Infernal purgatory is opening, and I am the chosen one." He was so overjoyed that he almost cried, thinking he was the one chosen by God. But suddenly, a blinding light flashed and blood splattered everywhere. A man appeared, holding a blood-soaked sword, making him feel suddenly sleepy and wanting to fall into a long, deep sleep. At this moment, all he could see was a head, detached from its body, lying in a pool of blood. With tears in his eyes, he wondered to himself, "Does God live in infernal purgatory? I hope I meet him, but I wonder how he would judge my life. I can't wait to find out." At that moment, he looked up at the sky, staring at the crack in space, deeply focused and asking himself, "Is this infernal purgatory, the place where my older brother disappeared?" Before he could answer his own question, he suddenly gathered all his energy and flew upward. But reaching infernal purgatory was much harder than he had imagined, forcing him to grit his teeth and pour all of his strength into getting there. In the end, the joy was that he had found it. The entire sky, once a beautiful purple pink, suddenly turned black and white, surrounding him completely, making it impossible for him to move. He felt confused and frightened, unsure of what was happening. He had been so close to entering infernal purgatory, but now he couldn't even touch it. Just then, an eye appeared, floating in midair, calling his name, Moonslash, from behind him. This surprised him. He had no idea who was behind him, but his body couldn't move, not even his eyes, making him incredibly angry. The eye moved closer and asked, "Moonslash wants to go into infernal purgatory to find your brother, Han Yik Xiao, and surprise him. How did the eye know about this?" Suddenly, hundreds of eyes appeared from within infernal purgatory, floating around Moonslash, all speaking in unison. "You don't need to find Han Yik Xiao anymore. He's already dead." Hearing this, Moonslash's anger flared and his eyes sharpened. At that moment, the hundreds of eyes burst into laughter, all saying together, "We're just messing with you." But actually, he's almost dead, and it might be even worse than death. It seemed like you really wanted to talk, right? I bet you really want to see your brother, don't you? How pitiful. How about we let him see him? Well, I guess it doesn't matter if they meet, but I don't want them to meet that easily. How about we play rock, paper, scissors to decide? All right, let's play rock, paper, scissors, Moonslash responded. After a moment, the result was in. One of the eyes shouted, "You lost. They can't meet." Another eye spoke up, "Fine. Honestly, whether they meet or not doesn't matter." Right after that, the hundreds of eyes gathered together and emitted beams of light. In that instant, Moonslash, frozen in place, quickly tried to think of a way out. Just as he was still figuring out what to do, the hundreds of eyes had combined into a black, human-shaped figure with large wings, and it spoke. Because you're about to die, you're making him angry and scared. Then the figure extended a long, slender finger, gathering energy, sending out red beams of light toward him. Before he could even think about what she was planning to do, a beam of light shot straight through his body, creating a massive hole. At that very moment, in the real world, his body was sitting on the game machine, sending out a red warning signal that caused him so much pain. He gritted his teeth. The warning message read, "The player's heart rate is dropping. Life-threatening conditions are imminent. Forced logout is required." A series of system failure notifications kept popping up, showing errors, restarts, and failed attempts, trapping Moonslash's soul here, unable to do anything. Just when he thought he was about to die, she spoke again from the other side. "Before you die, let me show you the opening scene, one that even your brother won't be able to stop in the end." In the dim sky in front of him, cracks suddenly appeared. The space between these cracks spread, growing wider across the entire sky. Then, out of nowhere, a peach blossom garden appeared, with two girls standing there. They thought the scenery was so beautiful, they decided to take a picture together. The red-haired girl adjusted the brightness of the photo, but just as she did, the sky suddenly darkened, leaving them both confused since everything had been fine just moments ago. As they stood there puzzled, a spatial crack appeared in the sky above the peach garden. They looked at each other and asked, "What is that? Is the sky tearing apart?" In another place, in a land covered in sand, three men also saw the crack in the sky. They asked each other, "What is that?" One of them replied, "It's probably some kind of special event." Meanwhile, in the icy tundra, two wolves were sitting around a fire, grilling fish. They also saw the spatial crack in the sky. The larger wolf, confused, asked, "Little wolf, what is that?" The little wolf answered, "A sign of danger." At this moment, countless crosses appeared across the sky, and right now, the spatial cracks were slowly spreading to cover the entire Earth. Alongside the blue Earth being enveloped, the red Earth was also being surrounded by cracks. The two planets, blue and red, faced each other, creating overlapping wave frequencies. As the blue and red frequencies merged, she snapped her fingers, connecting the two planets and creating countless red beams of light linking them. This red light formed a red spatial path between the two planets, and suddenly, an explosion of shockwaves erupted, terrifying everyone. People quickly stepped back to observe cautiously. However, someone brave and unafraid spoke up. "What's there to fear? Maybe it's a legendary treasure showing up." Another person responded, "No, it feels more like a teleportation gate." Before they could finish their sentences, from the red beam of light, a foot stepped out. Behind the foot, a whole army of soldiers and monsters stepped through. The monster with a lion's head and a human body at the back spoke, "Is this the world of players?" The man leading the group laughed cruelly and said, "Finally, we've made it through to this world." His gaze was filled with bloodlust, and he commanded his army, "Kill, kill, kill them all." The red light path spread everywhere. She turned to Moonslash and asked, "Isn't it magnificent?" Then she declared loudly, "At this moment, all players, the game is entering a new phase." As soon as she finished speaking, a red system notification appeared. Game upgrade opened. Mysterious Mood 2.0. Infernal Purgatory. At this point, Moonslash could only watch in anger and helplessness as her soul slowly faded away, unable to do anything. Suddenly, the system issued another notification indicating that the players' lifespans had been wiped out. The white-haired elder subordinates relentlessly attacked the players. Are these the guards? They're pretty strong. With strength like that, their equipment must be top tier. The old man grinned maliciously, raising his hand to create a glowing yellow energy orb. "So these are the so-called players?" He sneered. Suddenly, the ground beneath them cracked open. The old man unleashed a powerful attack, causing sharp spikes to shoot up from the earth, instantly killing the players and kicking up a blinding cloud of dust. Two players managed to escape. One said to the other, "Damn, we can't beat him. Let's run." The other quickly agreed, "Yeah, let's get out of here." Just then, a massive lion charged in, blocking their way. It mocked, "Running? Where do you think you're going?" Then it used a brutal move, slashing with its claws. One swipe, and it tore the two players into pieces, sending them out of the game. Watching this, the other players couldn't hold back. They knew that if they didn't act, they would be next. They rushed forward, shouting, "Monsters, don't get cocky." Members from the Tianfang and Huangdu guilds charged in. "The boss is ours." Tianfang, we're going to the top." "Charge, charge." Zhuang Guaishui watched the reckless players with a cold gaze. He gathered his magical energy into his hands, then clenched them tight. The energy transformed into a circle of lightning, erupting with a massive force, turning the players into dust. Two followers beside him cheered, "Master, you're incredible. Your power is unmatched." He then collected all the souls of the fallen players, forming them into a small orb. Kill those players and collect their souls. You can trade them in at Mysterious Moon City for anything you desire. Go ahead, power, wealth, and influence are waiting for you. The old man, the lion, and the other two stood in stunned silence after witnessing this display. The scene changes to a city with tall buildings packed closely together, the sky dark and gloomy, and rain pouring down heavily. Inside a dimly lit room, a person lies motionless on the bed, indifferent to the heavy rain outside. Suddenly, the mother, wearing an apron, bursts through the door and scolds her child loudly. What time is it? Play, play, play. From morning till night, all you do is play. If you put even half as much effort into your studies as you do into playing games, I thank God. The mother walks over to the curtains, continuing to complain. Let's see what you'll do if you don't get into college or find a job later. She pulls open the window curtains and seeing the rain falling like a downpour sighs. The rain is coming down so hard. She then adds, get up, take a shower, and change your clothes. Your dad's taking you to extra classes soon. Seeing that her child is still lying still, completely unresponsive, the mother glares angrily and urges, get up. Doesn't what I say matter to you? I've worked so hard raising you, and all you do is play games. Now I'm going to smash this game console. The mother yanks the game console off her child's head, shouting, you brat, are you deaf? Looking at her child's eyes, wide open and vacant, mouth agape and unresponsive, the mother shakes her child frantically, calling, Xiao Tian, what's wrong with you? Then, in a panic, she calls out to her husband, hey, come quick, something's wrong. The young man now looks like a person who has lost all vitality, completely lifeless. Outside, the sky continued to pour with relentless rain. The downpour stretched on, creating a scene full of sorrow. In another house, a young man wearing a gaming cap lay still. His girlfriend, lying next to him, softly called out, babe, stop playing the game, come hang out with me. Elsewhere, people were facing similar situations. The sound of an alarm kept ringing. Even someone in a wheelchair couldn't escape the noise of a dog barking on the floor at its owner. System notifications kept popping up with warnings. On the news board, a man was announcing breaking news. According to reports, the role-playing game Mysterious Moon, developed by Destiny Corporation, has become a global sensation, but it's experiencing an extremely serious technical issue. Over 1 billion players worldwide are unable to log out of the game. As he spoke, the man's expression darkened and he clenched his teeth in anger. Right now, hundreds of thousands of players are facing life-threatening danger. Next, the broadcast switched to a live feed from a reporter at Destiny Corporation's headquarters. Outside the company, the families of the affected victims and reporters gathered in a frenzy. Journalists were shouting questions. Please explain what caused this. Is this a technical failure or was it a deliberate act? One person held up a sign, Destiny Corporation, give me back my son. The reporters crowded around, mics in hand, firing questions. How long will it take Destiny to come up with a solution? A man standing behind 2 cold-faced bodyguards spoke up, we can't disclose that. Another reporter asked, can Destiny Corporation handle compensating all these victims? He casually slipped his hands into his pockets and responded, we can't disclose that either. The microphones continued to fire off questions like a storm. Can't reveal anything? Is this the answer from Destiny Corporation to the world? Is this your attitude? You have nothing to say when facing lawsuits from countries. He wasn't sure of his expression, but calmly spoke up. Right now, only Destiny Corporation can handle this situation. All you can do is wait. The interview ends here. Standing in the heavy rain, umbrellas were raised as people discussed in a buzz. What? It's over? Are you guys provoking the entire global population? This is a massive kidnapping orchestrated by Destiny Corporation. Ignoring the noise outside, inside the central conference room of Destiny Corporation, the meeting table was shaking as both sides slammed their hands down, arguing loudly and causing a commotion. They glared at each other, their faces burning with anger, saliva flying everywhere. How did you mess up this badly? What kind of work is your technical department doing? You don't know anything. Stop blaming people for no reason. With such a big problem, if we don't handle it right, a whole company is done for. It's over. The stock price has dropped 3 times. He knocked on the table several times, cutting off the argument between the two sides. The room fell silent as everyone listened to him. I'll ask. You all answer. He began asking questions. What is the cause of players not being able to log out of the game? The blonde man hesitated and replied, it's a bit complicated to explain. Hearing this, the man responded coldly, then just put it simply. The blonde man, a bit flustered, stammered, ah yes, of course. He then went on to explain the interaction between the game helmet and the controller. The basic principle behind the entire role-playing game is to link the player's consciousness to the game's network center, transmitting the player's actions and the game's responses in real time through the helmet. Suddenly, the player's actions wouldn't trigger. However, just last night, the network center had unexpectedly blocked the connection, causing the player's consciousness to be locked inside the system. It couldn't return to the player's brain. If the helmet were removed, severing the link, it would severely damage the brain's nervous system, leading to brain death. The man went silent, then quickly asked about emergency solutions. What are the emergency measures? The blonde man sighed in frustration. All the emergency backup routes have been blocked. Suddenly, the person sitting across from him proposed a foolish idea. Just pull the power from the network center and shut it down. Wouldn't that solve everything? Hearing such a ridiculous suggestion, the blonde man angrily retorted, "You idiot, that's no different from removing the helmet. Right now, the player's consciousness is trapped inside the network center. If we shut it down, it will harm the nervous systems of all the players." He couldn't listen any longer and shouted, "Shut up!" The two immediately fell silent. He then began assigning tasks to the departments. The technical team was speeding up their work, pushing forward the decryption process regardless of the costs. "I'll arrange for the world's best electronics engineers to provide technical support. The PR department will take charge of the situation and minimize negative news as much as possible. Get in touch with the Secretary General of the United States. The sooner, the better." The meeting ended. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone stood up in unison, respectfully bowing their heads to him. The group left, and the room fell silent with only him remaining. He drummed his fingers on the table a few times, and a small system interface appeared. It showed an image of a laboratory. He pressed his lips together, his face still cold and expressionless. In the center of the lab was a girl, completely naked, her body covered with various pieces of equipment. She lay still, showing no signs of waking up. Above, the sky was thick with dark clouds, lightning streaking across the sky. The heavy rain poured relentlessly over the sea. At that moment, the mysterious moon loomed, and the danger from the game seemed unavoidable. The next day, the news anchor continued reporting. This crisis, caused by Destiny Corporation, has resulted in a large number of people losing contact. Many key employees are missing. The danger and casualties are increasing. Please pay attention to the critical developments in daily life. We urge everyone to reach out to your family and close friends. If you lose contact with anyone, please go to their residence to check on their situation. If the distance is too great, please call immediately. On the screen, two elderly people wearing gaming helmets were shown, both in a state of brain death. The woman's phone rang with a sound. "Mom, answer the phone. Mom, answer the phone." These were the words of a child desperately trying to reach their parents. Under the heavy rain, the complaints of people echoed as their daily conveniences were disrupted. The area's lost power. Is anyone in charge here? Destroy it. My food hasn't arrived in 2 hours. How much longer will this rain last? The first floor is about to flood. Meanwhile, on the outskirts of the city, the rain had been falling for days, the river water was rising, and the water reservoir had reached the worrying level. Inside the office, 3 staff members wearing gaming helmets were also stuck in a state of brain-dead focus. The urgent sounds of the walkie-talkie echoed through the room. Control room, control room. Heavy rain has caused the water level to rise. Please open the water release valve immediately. Repeat, please open the water release valve immediately. But no one was listening, even though the urgent message kept blasting through the walkie-talkie. Please open the water release valve immediately. Repeat, please open the water release valve immediately. In the gang, a person was being overwhelmed by a huge, thin girl holding a weapon. The person, trembling, desperately said, quit the game, I want to quit the game." As the monster raised 2 large swords to strike down, the person screamed in fear, "No, I still have to go to work. I don't want to play this game." Suddenly, a blazing flame shot toward them. A Fei kicked his legs and delivered a powerful strike to the monster from behind, flames bursting from the impact. He had just saved that person's life. Like a bright ray of sunshine, he looked at the frightened individual and asked, "Hey, has anyone seen a really handsome guy with dark skin and carrying twin daggers?" The person, still trembling in fear, stuttered, No, I haven't seen anyone like that." A Fei nodded slightly, deep in thought. "Dan, why can't I find my brother anywhere?" Then he shot 2 flames from his hands, using the force to propel himself into the air and shouted, "Big brother." The person stood up suddenly and cried out, "Great God, please don't go. Don't leave me here." At that moment, Lu Lai found himself surrounded by a space full of floating data. Staring at the scene around him, he blankly wondered, "Am I about to die?" Suddenly, he furrowed his brows and gritted his teeth, declaring firmly, "I won't accept this." Then, a flash of light appeared behind him. A random achievement notification popped up. "You have completed a random mission. You discovered a mysterious event on your own. A random reward is now being given to you. Your reward is a lucky resurrection. It's a golden coin engraved with the image of a goddess. Badly wounded, Lu Lai leaned back against a tombstone. Half of his face now revealed a layer of pure white bone, looking a bit eerie. He breathed heavily, panting. He was alive again, but his body felt so heavy. Suddenly, someone who didn't know their place, holding a purple staff, stomped closer. With an arrogant smirk, he said, "This time I've summoned a zombie, my dead brother, you know? Turns out I'm stronger than you." Lu Lai looked at him, hesitating. "This place is." The man laughed menacingly and stretched out his sharp claws to intimidate him. "Come over here and kneel. Swear your loyalty to me." Lu Lai stood up. The man looked up at him, and as he saw him approaching, panic struck. He stepped back in confusion. Hey, what are you trying to do?" the man demanded. Lu Lai coldly replied, "I just want to ask you something." The man, irritated, raised his voice in threat. "What's your attitude? Kneel down before me." Lu Lai suddenly released a burst of dark red energy, forcing the man to kneel. Realizing he had messed with the wrong person, the man quickly pressed his palms together, bowing repeatedly and pleading, "I'll say whatever you want, whatever you want." Elsewhere, a strange force began to rise. The server spread its wings, observing the data and the orbs surrounding it. "This is strange," it muttered. "A code string from the monster world that looks just like Moonslash. Impossible. We killed him ourselves. We don't have time to deal with this right now, though. We need to focus on dealing with the portal situation." Then she irritably extended both hands and said, "Stop making noise. Whose territory did that code show up in?" "In the territory of the mysterious Moon City Lord. In that case, let the mysterious Moon City Lord clean it up." At that moment, in the fortress of Mysterious Moon, in the secret chamber of the City Lord, Blood Crane's City Lord calmly sat on a rock in the middle of a red river, surrounded by scattered monster skulls. The orb of hers clearly communicated the message. "My Moon Lord has received it." He closed his eyes and replied flatly, "Understood." Then he gave an order, "Blood slaves, go handle it." A large object rose from the water's surface. The blood slave placed a hand over its chest and respectfully acknowledged the command. "As you command, my lord." Meanwhile, near him, someone unaware of the situation rushed off, making the water below splash wildly. "My lord, if there is nothing else, I shall take my leave." He watched silently. Lu Lai, lost in thought, lowered his head and pondered deeply. The connection between the monster world and the players was clear. Monsters could freely enter the players' world to hunt and kill them. As long as they collected the souls of slain players, they would be utterly destroyed. In his mind, he imagined the Moon Lord, the one who was behind all of this. Was she a person or something else? But the most important thing was that he knew his older brother wasn't dead. It was likely that he was imprisoned by her. On the high mountain, a lone figure stood proudly under the moonlight. Lu Lai looked up at the silhouette and thought to himself, "If I can just find her, all my problems will have answers." He turned to leave, but then suddenly stopped, sensing something was off. Was he imagining things? It seemed like there was a figure on top of the mountain. His expression shifted to one of doubt, and with a furrowed brow, he quickly turned back around. "No, I'm not wrong," he thought, realizing the figure of a person on horseback had appeared behind him. The blood slave, with commanding authority, yanked on the reins, causing the horse to halt and rear up on its hind legs. Lu Lai's heart raced. That was fast, faster than any enemy I've ever faced. The blood slave summoned some kind of weapon surrounded by red energy. He then thrust it toward Lu Lai. Lu Lai struggled to block the attack, feeling as if his arm might snap from the force. A massive explosion erupted from the blood slave's strike, causing the ground to crack apart in several places, and tombstones were thrown into the air. Amidst the explosion, the blood slave stood tall and fierce, staring directly at Lu Lai. Lu Lai charged forward with two moves, Shadow Clone and Stun Rampage, making his speed nearly invisible and creating two clones that confused the blood slave. Suddenly, the horse let out a deafening roar that shook the earth. The blood slave shouted, "War Stomp." The horse slammed its hooves into the ground, causing a violent tremor that sent Lu Lai and his clones flying back hundreds of meters. The blood slave sat on the horse, exhaling smoke from his nostrils with dark blue eyes. He introduced himself, saying, "I am the blood slave sent by the city lord to take your worthless life." Lu Lai, feeling anxious, thought to himself, "He's strong, much stronger than that king. My body hasn't fully recovered yet. I'm extremely weak. I need to run first and figure things out later." Meanwhile, the blood slave let out a loud roar. Die. With that, the blood slave charged forward at an incredible speed. He swung his weapon with tremendous force, severing one of Lu Lai's arms. Seeing this, Lu Lai quickly fled, clutching his missing arm and thinking, "He's fast. His speed is several times faster than mine." As he ran, Lu Lai began formulating a plan. Running normally won't shake him off, but if I use the paralysis speed strike on my legs, I might be able to escape. With that thought, Lulai gathered his strength and activated a paralysis speed strike. Dark red sparks shot up around his legs. With a burst, Lulai surged forward at an incredibly fast speed. In just a few seconds, he had covered several hundred meters. The Blood Slave, watching Lulai run, immediately gave chase. Now, Lulai was ahead, and the Blood Slave was right behind, riding on his horse, holding a spear with a red glow in his hand. Lulai ran toward a cliff, all while thinking my speed is enough, but the strain on my legs is too much. They can't take it for much longer. Plus, I'm bleeding from my arm. The paralysis speed strike won't hold up for much longer. He continued thinking, I can only rely on the terrain to escape now. With that, the Blood Slave swung his weapon fiercely toward Lulai, but Lulai managed to dodge. Taking advantage of the moment, he jumped off the cliff. Below was a deep lake. Perhaps he was planning to escape by using the water. As soon as he plunged into the water, he used his Illusion Fishman class move. A long tail several meters in length appeared behind him. Blood Slaves gazed down at the water thoughtfully. Then he grabbed a red lightning bolt shaped like a sharp spear and unleashed his Blood Bow 8 directions attack. A powerful shockwave blasted out, sending water flying into the air. After the intense tremor, Blood Slave stood tall, droplets of water splashing onto his face. He spoke with satisfaction. The smell of blood, it's truly amazing. At this point, Lulai was like a weak rabbit being attacked by a vicious hawk. Blood Slaves began walking toward him. He said to Lulai, it's over now. You can die. Helpless, Lulai thought bitterly, how is it that I just came back to life, and now I'm about to die again? Is God playing a joke on me? The moonlight bathed the night in a peaceful glow. Suddenly, a red streak of light shot through the sky at an incredible speed. The people nearby looked up in awe. Then, a young boy's voice called out, Mom, look, it's a shooting star. His mother replied, make a wish, dear. The red streak continued to streak through the sky at breakneck speed. It struck Blood Slaves, obliterating him, leaving only his head behind. The Blood Slaves screamed in pain, not understanding why they were being treated this way. Suddenly, a woman appeared. It was you, Lulai's master, who pointed toward the Blood Slaves. The Blood Slaves were confused and asked, Master Yu, why are you doing this? Yu didn't answer them. Instead, she turned to speak to Lulai. Kid, every time I see you, you look so messy. Lulai stared at her in shock and called her name, Yu. Yu smiled brightly and replied, call me master. As the Blood Slaves were fading away, they muttered, I'm following the orders of the city lord. Right after that, a powerful whirlwind appeared in the sky, accompanied by bright red lightning striking down with tremendous force. Lulai was startled by this, but Yu didn't seem to show much emotion. From the whirlwind, an intense light shone down, and 3 figures emerged from it. 2 of them had wings and were holding long spears. One of them spoke, Mysterious Moon City, Blood Crane City Lord has arrived. The City Lord, standing in the center, emitted an overwhelming pressure and asked, You Hall Master, why do you want to kill my Blood Slaves and stop my plans? Yu calmly lifted her hand to her chin and responded, Blood Crane City Lord, what are you talking about? I don't understand. Meanwhile, Lulai was trembling in fear, thinking to himself, the City Lord of Mysterious Moon City. He was overwhelmed by the pressure and thought, his killing intent is too strong. The air feels so heavy. He continued, this person is my master's superior. It seems like I'm going to die today. Lulai worriedly thought to himself, I can't leave this unresolved before I die. I have to clarify things with my master and make sure no one else gets dragged into it. Even in a situation like this, he was more concerned about his master than himself, showing that he truly was an honorable and virtuous person. Back to the story, Blood Crane, with a powerful and overwhelming presence, spoke to Yu. Hall Master, are you really going to make me repeat myself? Yu calmly replied, if you say it again, I still won't understand. From a distance, dragons and monsters alike were fleeing in fear from the overwhelming pressure of the City Lord. Blood Crane crossed his arms and challenged Yu. I am the City Lord of Mysterious Moon City, ruling the entire city. You are merely the East Moon Hall Master, responsible for managing resources and the Blood Pool secret realm. Yu quickly responded with a hint of threat in his voice. Recently, the economy has been down and the city's finances are running low. Maybe we should start cutting your salary, City Lord. Hearing this, Blood Crane's anger flared. Don't think that just because my father brought you here, you can be disrespectful to me. Yu pretended not to hear and continued. Also, the taxes on the city's high-ranking officials should probably be raised a little. Blood Crane, in a rage, unleashed a tremendous burst of power, so strong that Lulai felt like he might fly away. Blood Crane then growled, as far as strength goes, I could easily send you flying. Yu remained unfazed and kept talking. Oh, and I almost forgot, military spending in the game world's expedition expenses also need to be cut. Blood Crane's eyes widened, his pupils turning blood red, veins bulging on his forehead. How dare you? A powerful force suddenly erupted, with deep red lights shattering rocks into pieces, causing the ground within a few hundred meters to crack wide open. Yu used her power to hold Lu Lai in place, preventing her from flying off, and said, "My Dong Yu division is responsible for distributing resources across the entire city. Why would I be afraid?" Yu continued, "If there's nothing else, I'll take this person with me." As she spoke, she used her power to generate red lightning that tightly wrapped around Lu Lai, preparing to take her away from the area. Blood Crane, seeing this, became frustrated, his veins bulging as he said, "Leave that person behind. That's someone I want dead." Yu paused for a moment, deep in thought, before raising her hand and unleashing a terrifying force toward Lu Lai. The Hallmaster frowned in anger upon seeing this. Yu, holding Lu Lai's head, created a portal and called out behind her. If this is the order of the city lord, of course, I wouldn't dare oppose it. But as for this head, I'd be happy to keep it as a trophy. With that, she disappeared along with the portal, leaving the three young men standing there watching. The other two started to flatter Blood Crane. "Ha! Usually, Yu is a law unto herself, but in front of you, she must obediently follow orders." The one next to him added, "Her expression when she killed that person earlier was something else." Ha! But these two didn't know that their master was furious. They chose the wrong time to try flattering him, and the result was that both of them were completely slaughtered by Blood Crane, with nothing left behind. Standing in the bloody rain for the two, Blood Crane said, "She listens to the orders of the Moon Emperor, not mine." With a face covered in blood, Blood Crane continued, "She doesn't even see someone like me, the city lord, as important." He arrogantly thought to himself, "Sooner or later, I will crush that arrogance of hers, and she'll have no choice but to kneel before me like a dog." Meanwhile, somewhere else, there was a pond full of some bright red substance, eerie and unsettling. This was the secret realm of mysterious Moon City, the blood pool of Lianhua. Here, Yu was happily chatting with a skeleton. Ha! So you're saying your brother had three people interested in him at once? But really, they just wanted to rob and kill him, right? The skeleton, recovering quickly, responded, "Exactly." Yu sat in a very seductive pose, resting her chin in her hand, and said, "The outside world really is interesting. Keep going, don't stop, tell me more." The skeleton continued, "After that, my brother and I..." The skeleton thought to itself, "It's strange. When I first met Ifai, I didn't talk to him at all. I just wanted to find a clue about my big brother. But now, meeting her, I feel like telling her everything. That's called love." Ha! Yu asked curiously, "So, does that mean you and your brother Han Yi Xiao are both players?" The skeleton quickly answered, "Yes, that's right." Yu then approached the skeleton, who was soaking in the bright red liquid, and asked, "Here is the translated text. Then why do you think I will help you again? If we help someone and only face harm with no benefit, letting you go will bring 100 benefits and no harm." The skeleton replied firmly, "That's right. Right now, you haven't turned me to dust. I am already very grateful to you, so I must confess everything to you." The skeleton continued, "The more I approach the truth, the further I get from my big brother. I feel more and more helpless. Right now, you are my last hope, the final straw for survival, if you help me." At this point, the skeleton solemnly placed a hand on his chest and said loudly, "I am willing to give everything for you." Lu Lai, in his skeletal form, promised Yu, "I am ready to dedicate everything to you." As soon as he finished speaking, his flesh slowly began to regenerate back into its original form. Suddenly, she placed her foot in front of him, leaving him confused. Yu sat high above, arrogantly saying, "Very well, then first lick my feet clean." She then stood up, swaying her hips, and called out, "Master." Seeing Lu Lai remain motionless, she taunted, "What's wrong? Can't you do such a simple thing? Didn't you just say you were willing to give everything for me?" Lu Lai looked at her fair, delicate foot, gritted his teeth, and slowly moved forward to gently lick it. Yu blushed deeply, quickly moving away, feeling embarrassed and saying, "I understand your determination now, but there's still a big gap between your current abilities and what you want to achieve." He soaked in the sea of blood and asked, "How much farther is it?" She replied thoughtfully, "In our world, all monsters are divided into 3, 6, or 9 different levels. In the lowest 3 tiers, the 9th level, which is the lowest, is called the Wretched class. The term wretched refers to extremely weak monsters. They only do 2 things: eat other monsters and avoid being eaten by other monsters. The 8th level is called the Brutes. The most basic way to increase a monster's strength is to eat others. When a wretched monster has consumed enough others, it gets promoted to Brute. Some brutes are selected and kept in captivity, forced to do labor like plowing, transporting goods, building houses, and more. The 7th level is called the venomous class. A brute, through labor and constantly devouring other monsters, will eventually reach the point where they have accumulated enough strength to be promoted to venomous class. While they grow stronger, they also get the chance to learn skills. Their social status rises as well, and they are allowed to participate in trade, repairs, assassination, or other tasks. These are the 3 lower tiers. This is the usual growth path for most monsters, but some monsters are born at higher levels. Next come the middle tiers. The 6th level is called Death Spirit. Only those in the 3 lower ranks, upon reaching their true strength, are eligible to take the promotion exam at their stronghold. Only after passing this exam can they be considered Death Spirits, qualified to join the official army, recognized by the secular monsters and make their families proud. The next level is the 5th level, known as Demon. Monsters at this level are incredibly strong in battle and hold important official positions within the strongholds. The blood slaves that were chasing us are one of these demon-level monsters. Moonlight sighed and said, "That demon-level blood slave is at a level I can't fight against." Yu comforted him, saying, "Don't be too hard on yourself. On average, there's only one demon-level monster for every 10,000 monsters." The 4th level is called Great Evil. These monsters have the power to flatten mountains and rivers, making them true powerhouses in the monster world. At this level, they already have high status. They can influence the development and direction of the strongholds by participating in meetings. These are the 3 central middle-level ranks in the monster world. The next step up is the upper-level rank, which is where my master, the Hall Master of the 4 Directions, stands. Each city has only 4 Hall Masters, who hold the most important powers: military resources, equipment, and food. The 4 Hall Masters promote the development of the stronghold by cooperating with each other, while also overseeing and balancing the different aspects of the city. As for their combat strength, it's difficult to describe. Just imagine it for yourself. Above me is the spokesperson of the highest authority and power within their jurisdiction. The entire monster world is divided into 9 territories, each corresponding to one of the 9 city lords. Each city is home to at least hundreds of millions of monsters, and due to the differences in status and position, each city lord manages their territory in their own way, with varying customs and practices. After finishing her introduction, Yu asked, "At this point, you must understand that the gap is huge, right?" Moonlight replied, "I understand." Yu continued, "A mysterious person you're talking about, the one who connected the players to the monster world and ordered the Blood Crane City Lord to kill you. As far as I know, only one person has that kind of power, the Moon Lord, the leader of the monster world. No one knows what she looks like, but it's known that she's the god of the monster world. She controls everything she knows and possesses unmatched power." Moonlight remained silent beside her. Yu spoke softly. "Sometimes it takes a lot of courage to learn how to let go. Growing up is about realizing that you're not the center of the world." He held his head and answered, "I know what I'm doing is difficult, maybe even impossible, but I have no other choice." Moonlight confided in her, "He's my brother of my family. Without him, I might have died or starved to death. But not only was I unable to save him, even if he got dragged into this, I feel so useless." Yu gently told him, "Come here." She let him rest his head on her lap, urging him to relax and breathe deeply as she comforted him. "You don't need to blame yourself for everything. Life like this is too exhausting." Moonlight seemed to snap out of his thoughts when he heard her reminder. "You can't keep going like this. Your goals and your strengths should be for others, not just for yourself." And mumble, "For myself." Yu replied, "Those who truly want to grow stronger will never stop hearing the deepest desires within themselves. Ask yourself, do you enjoy every battle? Will you feel joy deep in your heart from winning?" Moonlight slowly recalled how, at first, fighting was just a game to him. Maybe it wasn't even really a game. He just wanted to speed things up and uncover clues about his older brother as quickly as possible. Even as his abilities improved, fighting only made him feel repetitive and bored. But as the story progressed, he began to yearn to fight in order to release his rage. However, fighting at that point didn't bring him joy. It wasn't until he met them at the competition that he truly felt the pure joy fighting could bring him. At that moment, he temporarily forgot everything else. All he wanted was to enjoy the fight to win. "Win? I want to win. I will win every battle. I will defeat all enemies who stand in my way." Seeing Moonlight transform into the shape of a tiger, Yu was pleased. "It seems I've really awakened an incredible monster, huh?" Moonlight was now lying across Yu's lap, and she called to him, "Disciple, now that you've figured things out, get up. My leg is numb." He suddenly sat up in a panic, looking incredibly embarrassed. His face turned bright red, and his whole body seemed to be steaming. He hesitated for a moment before saying, "I'm really sorry." She looked at him and said, "Now that your heart is clear, the path ahead will be easier for you." He asked, "What do I do next?" She responded, "Why do you still need to ask? He replied, Master, I don't understand. I really don't know. She paused, thinking for a moment. Of course, she realized that she didn't actually know either. Sweat immediately started to form on her forehead. How could this be? She was the master. She had been at an incredibly high level from the moment she was born. All she had to do was breathe every day and she grew stronger. But she couldn't exactly say that, so she had to come up with something to trick him. After all, this kid seemed pretty clueless. Seeing her hesitate, he was sure she didn't know either. He just sighed and said, Come on, just tell me something. Her eyes suddenly lit up. Ah, I got it. She gave him a name. Han Xiao. He was surprised, her older brother, she explained. Suddenly, he remembered what Han Xiao had once said. If you want to get stronger, you can't ignore the resources around you. There are many ways to increase your strength in this mysterious moon city. The Hall Master of Southern Moon Hall has a method for enhancing the body, making it one of the best choices for building a solid foundation. He thought it over, and based on his older brother's understanding of the game, he was sure this choice wasn't wrong. So he decided to start with Southern Moon Hall. At this point, she stretched comfortably and said, Go ahead, you got this. Master will keep an eye on you. Before he left, she reminded him of something. My master doesn't get along with the other Hall Masters. If they find out you're my disciple, you'll probably be dead in the next second. So you'll need to figure out how to get into Southern Moon Hall on your own. Hearing this, he was shocked and exclaimed, What? She angrily pinched his ear and said, What are you so surprised about? Before you leave, you need to massage my feet. He winced in pain and cried, Ouch, ouch, ouch. In mysterious Moon City, within the city's walls, he was wearing a black cloak as he walked through the streets. He passed by some monsters, but they didn't recognize him. He walked around calmly, recalling what Yu had said. Remember to disguise yourself a bit when you go out. After all, in this world, you're already dead. He sighed deeply. Everything had happened so fast, and he needed to gather his thoughts. Right now, he was in a monster-filled world, in a place called Mysterious Moon City, surrounded by countless powerful enemies and an unreliable master. He needed to use this place as a stepping stone to keep growing stronger, then fight his way to the Moon Lord and find his older brother. He looked at the map to check the location he needed to go. It was right here. This was the first stop on his path to becoming stronger. He now stood in front of the southern gate of Mysterious Moon City, Touty Tower. He remembered Yu saying, The Southern Moon Hall mainly handles the production and preparation of food for Mysterious Moon City. The Hall Master of Southern Moon Hall is also a huge food lover. Touty Tower was built by the Hall Master herself. She often comes here to study cuisine, so the chances of running into her are highest here. 2 guards at the gate stopped him. They asked, Hey, stop! What are you here for? He replied calmly, Just here to eat. They were surprised. Eat, eat. They couldn't help but laugh when they heard him speak. One of them shouted loudly, knocking him down, Get lost. The other looked at him with disdain. Where's this country bumpkin from? If you want to dine at Touty Tower, you'd better be at least at the demon level. Surprised by the strength of the gatekeepers, he couldn't help but think, Are the guards here this powerful? It looks like I can't just barge in. He remembered what Yu had told him. If it's really hard to meet the Hall Master of Southern Moon Hall, your master will tell you a secret. The 2 gatekeepers warned him. Hey, don't push your luck. If you step any closer, we won't be so easy on you this time. He replied, I'm a chef, here to cook for the Hall Master. Both of them froze. They quickly opened the door for him to enter. Please come in. So you're the chef. We apologize for the misunderstanding earlier. Please step inside, they said, bowing their heads in respect. Thank you for your dedication. Inside Touty Tower, an employee approached him. Excuse me, are you the honored master chef here to cook for the Hall Master? He nodded. That's right. The employee respectfully replied, Please follow me. The guests dining in the restaurant couldn't help but comment. As expected, after so many meals, the taste here is still the best, isn't it? That's right, you can eat here 100 times and never get tired of it. The aroma of the food spread everywhere, and as he smelled it, he couldn't help but sigh. It smells amazing, the staff member said. Up ahead is the kitchen. Let's head down there. The staff continued, The 4 chefs have already cooked for you, and they're now in the final stages. Please wait a moment. The chefs worked skillfully, each focused on their task. The other 2 chefs were also confidently presenting their dishes. At that moment, the judge rang the bell to signal the end. Time's up, the judge announced. Chefs, please stop cooking immediately. The staff will now collect your dishes. The chefs were finally allowed to relax. Be careful, don't mess up the presentation, one of them said. Why are you so worried? My hands keep shaking, another replied. What's there to worry about? The flavor of our dishes is definitely going to be fine, one of the chefs reassured. 4 servers brought the dishes out. Each dish was unique. Mountain bamboo stir-fry with organ meat, rice of Southern River Town, wings drenched in blood sauce, and fiery pepper steak. The judge announced your creations will be taken behind the screen, where the hall master will taste them before making the final decision. At that moment, he couldn't contain his excitement. The Southern Moon Hall Master is here. This is going well. He glanced at the others, feeling a sense of doubt. Is this really a cooking competition? It feels like the chefs are more nervous than I am. They were both nervous and excited, all of them silent, waiting anxiously. The judge announced, Hall Master has tasted all of your dishes, and now he will immediately reveal the results. The Hall Master's feedback is as follows. The first dish, the bamboo shoots, were cut too thick and uneven. The second dish, a fried rice, was too oily. The third dish, the elbow, hasn't absorbed the flavor properly. The fourth dish, the steak, is overcooked. At this, they panicked and begged, please, Hall Master, give us one more chance. It's over now, there's no way to fix it. The judge, along with the staff, placed a hand on their chest and said sincerely, thank you for your efforts. We appreciate your offerings, they said, as a pool of blood appeared in front of him, and he was overwhelmed by the sight. At this moment, one of the staff members placed a hand on his shoulder and said, Chef, it's your turn now. The staff member said again, Chef, it's your turn. He glanced at him and the staff member gestured, please come this way to change. He calmly reached in his pocket and replied, I understand. Little Eye sighed, is cooking really that simple? You tricked me again. He then headed to the changing room at Towdy Tower. He pushed the door open with one hand, and inside, 3 people appeared. One of them stepped forward, and he glared at him. The large man approached and asked, are you the one I'll be facing in the 4th round? Immediately, he unleashed a terrifying aura. You calmly assessed his strength, but he seemed to dismiss you. Oh, where did this chicken come from? You don't even have the scent of experience on you. Do you think the Towdy Tower is some kind of joke? Comparing yourself to an opponent like me is nothing but an insult to my chef career. With that, he slammed the door shut. The blonde man walked up beside you, his expression one of admiration. What a great presence you have. It seems you're not someone ordinary, but unfortunately, only one of the 4 of us will make it out alive. I hope, in your final moments, you can taste the best flavor of your life. Hearing his words, you immediately realized the situation. He mentioned only one would survive, so the rules of the game must be that the losers are killed. Even if you succeeded, only the best would be chosen to live. A staff member outside asked, Chef, have you changed yet? The match is about to start. You had already put on your chef's uniform. I'm ready, you replied. He glanced at the man with 2 heads who was sitting quietly in the corner of the room. The 4 of them made their way to their respective tables. The judge spoke, now, the next 4 chefs have arrived. He explained, welcome to the 4 outstanding chefs. I will be the host for this competition. Next, I will explain the rules. In this cooking contest, we will provide the ingredients and you must improvise. The competition lasts 1 hour and the final decision will be made by the head of the hall. No objections will be accepted in any form. He looked at the pot in front of him, lost in thought. A cooking contest? He pondered, then thought again. It's been such a long time since I last cooked. The last time he cooked was the memory of his family before surfaced in his mind. Afai said, Big brother, can I have another bowl? He advised, eat a little less, you've already had 3 bowls. Afai praised, this braised pork is really good with rice. Hanif Xiao said, the second one, this dish is just okay. Hurry and sit down to eat with us. The image of their little family happily living together was the most cherished memory he had. The judge announced all the chefs are completely confident in their cooking skills. Therefore, we've carefully prepared random ingredients for everyone. This is a test how well you can adapt, so please go ahead and lift the lids in front of you. Inside, you'll find various random components. You have 2 minutes to familiarize yourselves with these ingredients. At that moment, he lifted the cloth from the table and thought to himself, random ingredients, huh? As long as they're not too weird. But what appeared before him was not what he expected. He realized it was the body of a chef from before. Each of his body parts was laid out on the table. The judge reminded everyone, please remember His Excellency Hall Master treats all ingredients with the utmost respect. Poor cooking skills and food waste are unforgivable crimes. After their deaths, His Excellency has pardoned their sins and allowed them to donate their bodies to become valuable ingredients. He expresses his sincere gratitude once again for their contribution. All right, now the competition begins. You have 1 hour left. He was also surprised by his reaction. Is this really what you call a contribution? The blonde man was thrilled. I got a human pig head. My luck really is on my side. The mustache man cautioned him. Don't get too cocky. Devon meat has a special flavor, you know. Lu Lai looked at the body on his table and felt disgusted. Damn, it's done. How am I supposed to deal with this pile of meat? Not only does it look disgusting, but it smells terrible too. He quietly thought to himself, realizing this was just the first level. Stay calm. There has to be a way. The main problem came from the ingredients. What should he do if the ingredients weren't fresh? Suddenly, he thought of something. Oh, I got it. I'll use fiery Sichuan seasoning to cover up the unpleasant smell of the ingredients. It's like fighting fire with fire. He looked over the things on the table, calculating in his mind. The spices weren't an issue, but the time limit was just an hour. Then I'll go with sliced steamed meat, a typical dish of Sichuan cuisine, to decide the outcome. Sliced steamed meat uses the best tenderloin. The thickness of the meat slices should be around 2 millimeters. If the slices are too thick, they'll be hard to cook and eat. If they're too thin, they'll mess with the flavor. Next came the marinating process. This low-quality meat needed to be marinated longer with salt, cooking wine, green onions, ginger, and other spices to mask the foul smell. The blonde man looked at him with a confused expression. Oh, what kind of cooking method is that? He sighed. As expected, men always kept their skills hidden. But it's really impressive that he chose the most disgusting parts first. He confidently said, "The victory will definitely belong to the beauty of my dish, along with the deliciousness of the food I'm about to cook." He immediately began slicing the pork into small pieces. The man with the mustache, on the other hand, was furiously pounding the goblin meat, hitting it so hard that his actions were making the blonde-haired guy uncomfortable. Huff, this barbarian. Can't you be a little gentler? Are you cooking, or are you trying to break down a wall? The mustache man sneered and replied, "Huff, if you don't like it, stay out of the way. Stop mumbling." At this moment, he was also quietly thinking to himself, the goblin meat may not taste as good as pork, but it's definitely more chewy. I want to create the most elastic goblin meatballs by pounding it consistently. Meanwhile, Lu Lai was starting to add the ingredients into the pan. The referee announced that there were still 20 minutes left and reminded everyone to manage their time wisely. He had already planned his next steps. After preparing the chili oil, the most difficult part was about to come, the dipping hot pot stage. The meat slices only needed to be in for a few seconds. At the table next to him, the two-headed man was looking extremely down as he stared at the body of his dish, unable to continue. "No, I can't do it. I can't. I just can't," he said, his voice breaking. "I have no hope." Suddenly, he shouted out loud, "No way. I can't do it. Big brother, wait for me. I don't want to compete anymore." He immediately took the knife and slashed his throat, with his blood spraying everywhere. In a panic, he glanced over to the side, thinking to himself, what is happening? He too became frantic. "This is bad. My own flesh is splattered everywhere." The man with the mustache sneered, "Huff, another chicken." The blonde guy angrily looked at the bloodstains on his clothes. He said, "My clothes are ruined." The body of the two-headed man lay grotesquely on the floor. His condition was horrifying. At this point, Lu Lai raised his bowl of meat and asked, "Referee, my meat is completely ruined. What are you going to do about this sudden situation?" The referee raised his hand and said, all right, I understand." After a moment, he continued, "I just consulted with the hall master. The fourth contestant sincerely apologizes. The hall master's decision is that the competition will continue." He was shocked by this decision. "What did you say?" "Continue," the referee replied. "Exactly. Continue. There are only 15 minutes left until the competition ends." He was furious now. "Damn it, my meat is unusable. It's all soaked to this weird, strange blood, and there's no time to cut new pieces. If it's not marinated to get rid of the fishy smell, the scent of dead human flesh will be overwhelming. What should I do? There's no time left." The blonde man was now expertly wrapping his meatballs. "All right, let's go." He carefully placed the tray into the steamers. "Lie down properly, my darlings. Time for a little steam." He struck an elegant pose. Meanwhile, the man with the mustache began shaping his meatballs, sighing as he worked. "This is the feeling. Adding my family's secret seasoning will surely guarantee my victory." He dropped each meatball into the pan. The referee announced, 8 minutes left until the end of the competition. At this point, the chef was frantic, thinking to himself, "I can't stop now. Giving up means it's all over. If I push through, there's still a glimmer of hope." His flames flared up even higher. The referee rang the bell. "Time's up. The competition is over. Chefs, please present your dishes." Each dish was presented one by one. The dish from chef number 1 is the beauty in captivity, pork dumplings. Chef number 2's dish is the perfect weave, goblin meatball soup. Chef number 3's dish is, well, he's just starting to plate it, so it doesn't have a name yet. He says, "Hold on, it's still hot." The referee announced, "The dishes are being served to the hall master for tasting behind the screen. Please be patient while we await the results." The 3 chefs sat in silence, waiting for the outcome. The blonde man was completely calm at that moment. He lifted a finger, then suddenly lowered it back to its original position. The screen behind the referee started to reverse. The referee and the 3 others were all extremely surprised. The referee exclaimed, "Huh? There's a dish that meets the hallmaster's standards. In that case, please allow the hall masters to provide their feedback. The hall master of the Southern Moon Hall appeared. She was sitting on top of a giant's body. The other two were shocked and said, Hall Master, Your Excellency, Hall Master. Lulai thought to himself, Southern Moon Hall Master. She looked very different now, especially in front of her dish. She called out, Number 1. The blonde man quickly knelt down and responded, Yes, Hall Master, it's me. She commented, This dish is very delicately prepared. Magic was used to perfectly separate the lean meat and fat in equal proportions. Moreover, the spices are evenly spread throughout. You've made full use of your ingredients and you're worthy of advancing to the next level. He sincerely said, Thank you, Hall Master. She then called for the next dish. Next. The man with the mustache was furious and muttered, Huff, we still don't know who's going to win and who's going to lose. She said, Goblin meatball soup. She picked up a meatball and examined it closely. She slowly brought a meatball to her mouth. She took her time savoring its flavor. After finishing, she called for number 2. Come up here, she said. The man with the mustache quickly knelt and responded. She commented, The meatball is just like its name. The texture is soft and chewy, done perfectly. With just this, you've earned the right to level up. He happily said, Thank you, Hall Master. Next, she looked at the bowl of soup. She asked, What's this soup? The man with the mustache quickly explained, This soup is my family's secret broth. It's made with 18 rare spices. She gave a dismissive look and said, This soup tastes like a punch to the mouth. The flavor is so strong, it completely overpowers the natural taste of the ingredients. Cooking is about enhancing the ingredients, not changing them. As she spoke, she reached for the knife at her waist. She warned, Don't forget this in your next life. With a swift motion, she drew the knife and cut through all the man's skin, leaving him only with bones. He screamed, No. Lulai felt a wave of fear. So fast, my eyes can't even keep up with her movements. She continued, calling the next person. Number 3, come up here. When the dish was uncovered, she couldn't help but be shocked. Huh? Number 3, is this really food? Her gaze turned icy. Lulai boldly replied, Of course, it's a dish. And in fact, it's the delicious one. It's called scrambled eggs with tomatoes. Upon hearing this, the first chef couldn't help but laugh loudly and ask, Scrambled eggs with tomatoes? He sneered, Looks like I really overestimated you. Even without using meat, you still can't make scrambled eggs with tomatoes for Hall Master. Don't tell me you don't even know these 2 basic seasonings. In his heart, Lulai thought, This dish isn't in the Monster World's recipe book, so maybe there's still hope. The number 1 chef, not afraid to die, suggested to Jia Hui, Hall Master, please get rid of this person right away. She coldly replied, Number 1, shut up. Then she reminded him, Every chef who cooks for me has the right for me to taste and decide. But the price they pay is that I'll have control over their life and death. Jia Hui tasted a little of the scrambled eggs with tomatoes. She was stunned and asked, How can it taste like this? Then, pointing her chopsticks at him with interest, she said, Interesting. She commented, I already have my answer between the 2 of you. The winner is... At that moment, number 1 thought Hall Master's comment just now doesn't seem quite right. Also, she ate several bites of the food made by number 3. This situation isn't good for me. Thinking this, he quickly interrupted Hall Master. There's something wrong with his food. He didn't use the ingredients originally provided. He made a mistake. The number 1 chef thought he had already won. Smugly, he said, It's fine. He's just off topic. Hall Master, please announce the results, someone urged. As soon as the words were spoken, the number 1 chef was torn into pieces. Jia Hu, holding a knife in her hand, coldly said to him, I told you to shut up. Now I'll announce the results. The winner is number 1. However, since he's dead, number 2 is the real winner. She ordered call out his name. He hesitated before responding, I'm Lulai. As he said this, he quietly observed. Just as the results were about to be announced, the woman pointed in his direction. It seemed that the scrambled eggs with tomatoes had won after all. But honestly, the way this male Hall Master was judging seemed really arbitrary. She introduced herself, I am Hall Master Jia Hui. Now tell me, what do you want as your reward? Do you want to enter the Telly Tower, or perhaps get the right to open a shop here? Or do you want to be my disciple? Lulai knelt on the ground, respectfully making his request. I would like to ask Hall Master Jia Hui for the method to strengthen my body. She lowered her gaze and said, Strengthening your body is no problem. Then she asked Lulai, What's your current level? He looked confused and asked, What level? Jia Hui replied, Yes, the method I offer requires you to be at least at the demon level to be eligible for it. Lulai honestly admitted, I don't even know what my level is. She said it was fine, asked him to change his clothes and follow her. In the distance ahead, there was a tower. Jia Hui and Lulai were escorted there by a giant subordinate. The giant landed heavily, causing cracks to form in the ground. In front of the tower, Jia Hui explained, "This is called the human level tower. The tower is divided into 6 levels, each corresponding to a different stage of weakness. Athlete, poison specialist, spirit slayer, demon, and great evil. Once you enter, you'll know what level you're at." As Lu Lai stepped in, he thanked Hallmaster. He thought to himself, "A tower that ranks people, I really do want to see where I stand now." At the ranking tower, the first level of weakness was guarded by an assassin rabbit. It was munching on a carrot, but as soon as it heard the noise, it turned and asked, "Who's there? State your name." Before it could finish speaking, Lu Lai sliced off its ear and replied, "No need." Outside the tower, the giant seemed puzzled and asked, "Master, may I ask you something?" Jia Hui nodded. "Go ahead. Why did you trick Lu Lai into the rabbit cage tower? Didn't you win already?" She answered, "Because he has a strong Yu scent on him." The giant understood immediately. "So he's an undercover agent from the Eastern Moon sect." Jia Hui seemed unsure and added, "I've heard that during the last Feng Yun stage competition, Yu took a skeleton as his disciple." The giant was confused. "Then why didn't you just kill him? Keeping him in the rabbit cage tower will be a real headache." Hearing him complain nonstop made her annoyed, and she punched him. The giant fell flat on his back and quickly begged, "Please spare me, master." Jia Hu coldly replied, "I only agreed to answer one question, not to let you ask a second one." Thinking about Lu Lai, she quietly asked herself, "Why am I locked up?" A fake smirk appeared on her face. "Why even ask?" Lu Lai advanced to the 3rd level of the ranking tower, where the dust and smoke filled the air. The scholar rabbit panted heavily. Taking advantage of the moment, Lu Lai snuck up from behind and delivered a knockout punch at the 3rd level of the lone fighter's tower. He moved quickly, changing directions rapidly. The scholar rabbit became dizzy, confused. Left, right, above, below. Lu Lai landed a decisive blow, paralyzing his opponent. With the 3rd level cleared, he moved on to the 4th level, where a spirit slayer awaited. The staff-wielding rabbit was ready, holding a long staff with a sharp end. "I, the staff-wielding rabbit, seek your guidance," it greeted. Lu Lai also raised his weapon. "Please teach me." The staff-wielding rabbit swung its staff at Lu Lai's face. He dodged quickly and countered. The two clashed fiercely. As they fought, Lu Lai thought, "Spirit Slayer level? It's almost on par with Feng Ya." Lu Lai observed closely and silently told himself that he could win. He called upon the potential dragon from the depths of his power. The dragon surged forward, charging directly at the staff-wielding rabbit. With a pained cry, the rabbit was sent flying into the wall. "I must concede defeat," the rabbit said. "Go on. The true enemy lies above." Lu Lai humbly replied, "I yield." He then proceeded to the 5th level of the ranking tower, where he expected to face many demons, considering this was the demon level. But all he saw was the demon rabbit warrior standing and waiting. It briefly introduced itself. "I have 5 swords, each representing 1 move. If you can withstand all 5 of my strikes, you win and I lose." Lu Lai thought to himself, feeling like he was being trapped, unable to avoid the attacks. Still, he responded, "Bring it on." The demon rabbit warrior swung the first sword, its slashes surrounding Lu Lai. He did his best to defend himself, but when he was thrown back, he shouted, "What kind of sword is this?" The warrior retracted its blade and replied, "This is the first sword technique, Qi Dong. Innocent like a child, but quite mischievous." After steadying himself, Lu Lai said, "Show me the second technique." The demon rabbit warrior eagerly responded, "As you wish." It swung the second sword, aiming directly at Lu Lai. The slashes spun toward him rapidly, forcing him to retreat. He struggled to stay on his feet and retaliated with his own technique, Tilit Bao Nan. This was the second sword move, Tam Suan, strong and full of vitality, like a young man in the prime of his life. "Your arms are shaking." Was that really only the second move? Lu Lai thought to himself, "The next move will be harder to block. I'll have to switch from defense to offense." With that thought, he activated his shadow clone and the Team Long Tai Iron skill, doubling his strength to strike first. The demon rabbit warrior eagerly awaited the next move, saying, "Good." The third sword technique is called Thin Nin. The sword strikes came at him at sharp angles, aiming for the heads of 2 dragons, causing his Team Long Tai Iron to fall apart. It's said that youth is like a man in his prime when his will and the form of his sword have reached their peak. The power and strength of this sword, the third one, is unmatched. "You want to accept the fourth sword?" Lu Lai laughed loudly. Then his eyes shifted and his expression changed as he adopted a provocative Achula stance. "Bring it on." The demon rabbit was excited, its aura starting to shift. "So, you're not simple after all." The two clashed simultaneously, impact shaking the ground. Lu Lai seemed severely wounded. It continued, introducing the fourth sword, called Twilight. Like the height of youth, The one who wields this sword has mastered the techniques of hundreds of martial arts schools, simplifying the most complex swordplay to kill this single strike. If you've managed to bring me to the fourth move, you're quite skilled. In my lifetime, many souls have already been claimed by just these 4 sword moves. The demon rabbit thought Lu Lai was dead, but then it heard a laugh from behind. Startled, it turned around and shouted, "What?" Lu Lai's voice echoed from the blood pond of Yu Yu, his body having evolved to a whole new level. MQ Sheen, hey, hurry up and use your final sword move. Lu Lai, in his Atula form, tilted his head and spoke to the Demon Bunny Warrior. Use your final sword move. The Demon Bunny Warrior placed its hand on its hip and looked at him with great admiration. All right, you've earned it. You really deserve for me to use my 5th sword move. It then unleashed another blade from the 5 swords. Lu Lai watched closely, sensing something dangerous as the Demon Bunny Warrior drew out a transparent sword. It looked like a stream of water, shifting shapes constantly, and explained to him, "My 5th sword move has no name. It's called Severing Life. This is what I learned after I died and turned into a demon warrior, meditating and focusing my mind for hundreds of years before finally understanding it." The creature spoke darkly, outlining the power of the technique. "A regular sword can only cut through flesh, but my 5th sword move can sever the soul of my enemy. Prepare yourself," it said. The moment the words left its mouth, a dark, ghostly energy formed behind it in the shape of a snarling demon head, ready to face the Atula demon head full of battle intent behind Lu Lai. The Demon Bunny Warrior swung its sword, and Lu Lai saw countless sword energies crisscrossing in front of him, weaving together like a net, pulling him into another dimension. This is how he observes the situation around him and quickly realizes the mental attack. The space created by the 5th sword is called Duan Sheng Tian Sing, Severing Life's Path, a place where only a massive scale exists. 2 people are sitting on opposite sides of the scale with 2 enormous swords hanging above them, their tips pointing downward. The demon rabbit martial artist starts to speak. What is the meaning of life? It has no meaning. The balance begins to tilt as he continues speaking. Life is difficult, with more sorrow than joy. Why should we endure so much pain, just for a fleeting moment of happiness? Lu Lai quickly notices the sword tips getting closer to his head. Is his mental attack a debate? As he speaks, the balance tilts in his favor. He responds swiftly. Sorrow and joy are 2 sides of the same coin. Without sorrow, there can be no joy. At the same time, he notices that the tilt of the balance has stopped. The demon rabbit martial artist keeps arguing. The foundation of all existence is balance. Isn't pain just as much a part of happiness? Life is so short, and so many people get lost in the endless cycle of birth and death, trapped in the prison of chasing happiness until they turn to dust. Lu Lai responds, challenging its point of view. Life is indeed short and unfair, but as long as it exists, it has meaning. The figure on the other side of the scale questions again, then what is meaning? Is life just a drop of water in the ocean or a grain of sand in the desert? Lu Lai calmly explained, a single drop of water can create a huge wave, a single grain of sand can cause a sandstorm. Both are on opposite ends of the spectrum. The demonic rabbit warrior carried with it the decay of death, while Lu Lai radiated life. Each had their own view on life and death. In the end, on a field that was always covered in snow and ice, a tiny sprout suddenly emerged from the cold white ground. Soon after, more fresh green shoots appeared, breaking through the frozen earth as if bringing spring to this cold, year-round place. The illusion shattered in an instant. The demonic rabbit warrior sheathed its sword and stood facing Lu Lai. It calmly admitted, I've lost. I thought that after 100 years of enlightenment, I would finally understand the true meaning of life and death, but instead, it only left me with confusion. Lu Lai pulled his hood back, seeming to understand, and responded, there are countless answers to the meaning of life in the minds of countless people. That's why it can't be generalized by any one perspective, just like how no 2 leaves are exactly the same. The rabbit warrior leaned back, thoughtfully repeating his words, no 2 leaves are exactly the same. Interesting. Go ahead, the old rabbit is waiting just as he is. But as Lu Lai's figure disappeared down the hallway, the warrior quietly added, we'll meet again soon. On the 6th floor of the evaluation tower, in a great danger, Lu Lai walked on, already planning his next move. His current strength wasn't a match for a high-level danger, but he thought to himself, let me see just how far the gap really is. But as soon as he stepped onto the 6th floor, Lu Lai was surprised to see an old rabbit sitting by a chessboard. When it saw him, it narrowed its eyes and asked, do you know how to play 5-man chess? Lu Lai didn't say a word. Without hesitation, he activated his Atula mode and charged forward. He quickly thrust his bright red sword toward the old rabbit, but then he realized the sword went right through its body, even making it look slightly transparent. Surprised, he thought to himself, my attack passed through it. Is this an illusion? But right after that, as if to dismiss his thoughts, the old rabbit reached out and grabbed Lulai's arm. You're strong, young man, it said. Lulai was shocked. It actually touched me. He immediately released more magic, turning it into several spears that pierced through the rabbit's form. But the rabbit's figure remained like an illusion, with all the energy passing right through it. The rabbit stroked its chin and smiled. Come on, try a bit faster. Then the old rabbit picked up a chess piece from the board and quickly flicked it toward Lulai's forehead, saying, you still need more practice. Before Lulai could react, the chess piece hit his forehead with a puff of smoke, and his consciousness began to fade in disbelief. What? He thought, just before collapsing and losing consciousness. A while later, he slowly regained consciousness. When he opened his eyes, he found himself lying on the floor, staring up at the ceiling. As soon as he sat up, he saw the assassin rabbit holding a carrot, slowly creeping toward him. He was a bit surprised and stared at it. Who are you? The rabbit, seeing that he was awake, immediately turned around and hid behind a huge pile of carrots, only sticking its head out to speak in a somewhat eerie tone. That's creepy. How are you awake so fast? Lulai looked at his body, confused, and then asked the rabbit, why did we go back to the first floor? Even though I haven't passed the 6th level of this tower, I should have completed the ranking by now. After that, I should have been able to leave. The assassin rabbit realized that he didn't seem to understand the situation. With a smug expression, it stayed hidden behind the mountain of carrots and explained, you fool, this isn't a ranking tower. Looks like that hall master played a trick on you. This is the rabbit cage tower, a special kind of prison for executing death row prisoners. So forget about getting out of here for the rest of your life. Lulai stared in shock. What did you say? At the same time, in the Eastern Moon Palace, Hallmaster Yu sat in the middle of a pile of notebooks, stretching and letting out a deep sigh. She propped her chin in her hand and sighed, why do all these bills keep piling up like this? Then she suddenly remembered Lulai and wondered, I wonder how Mood/'s disciple is progressing. She continued, resting her chin in her hand, closed her eyes, and murmured to herself, I shouldn't spoil him too much. He needs to walk his own path. I'll just take a nap for now. On the 5th day of Mysterious Moon, the sky was overcast and crows flew across the sky carrying the scent of death. The cries of parents echoed, please, someone save my child. The doctors responded, we'll do everything we can. The siren of an ambulance kept blaring until it finally stopped at the town's medical center. The nurse called the emergency department, reporting that patient number 649 was showing signs of cardiac arrest and needed to be rushed into surgery immediately. She nervously reported to the doctor, the operating rooms are all in use. There are still 40 people waiting in line. The doctor replied, there's no time. Use the defibrillator to perform CPR on the patient right away. Dr. Zhang worked tirelessly to revive the patient's heartbeat, but the ECG just showed a flat line. Finally, the announcement came, patient 649 had been declared dead after failed resuscitation. The nurse sighed, that's the 34th one today. She trembled and asked, why couldn't we save even one person? The doctor, too, was filled with despair, having saved so many lives, but never imagining that something worse than a virus could exist. The nurse, searching for any glimmer of hope, asked, is there really nothing more we can do? Dr. Zhang helplessly replied, it's over. Right now, all we can do is give them nutritional fluids to maintain the basic energy needed for life. The rest is up to them. Meanwhile, in the city of Hope Pegasus, the neutral Pegasus city in this region, fighting was strictly prohibited. This was an area where players from all over the world gathered to trade and interact, often referred to as the City of Hope. Just a day before, the city had been attacked by Beast Moon City, one of the 9 major monster cities in the world. The players in this area were surrounded and suppressed, causing heavy casualties. The sounds of wailing filled the air. Let me go, please spare me. Someone help me. The monsters on a mission ordered, search carefully and don't leave anyone behind. A group of players were hiding inside a house, observing what was happening outside. They sighed in relief when they saw the monsters leave. The young man with blonde hair gritted his teeth and cursed, I can't take it anymore. When will I be able to escape this damn game? It's all that damn Destiny Corporation's fault. Once I get out, I swear I'll sue them. A tall, muscular man tried to calm him down, complaining won't help right now. The only thing we can do is support each other. The other 2 players nodded in agreement. From now on, we're brothers. We stick together through life and death. He laughed and said, that's right. This is what they call realizing true friendship in times of hardship. As long as we stick together, we'll definitely get through this tough time. Just as he finished speaking, their hidden hideout was shattered, and behind them stood a bone serpent demon, its red eyes gleaming. It flicked its snake-like tongue and excitedly said, found you. The tall man immediately ordered, quick, form a defensive formation. but his teammates fled as soon as they saw the bone serpent demon. Before he could even react, she decapitated him and consumed his soul. She sighed in satisfaction. The soul of a player is truly a delicacy. The two remaining people split up and ran in different directions, but one of them was ambushed. A dagger slashed his leg. He screamed, "My leg," and cursed, "You bastard, son of a bitch." The other person apologized, "Brother, if we die together. If we survive together." The bone serpent demon spat out a blast of toxic bone dust at them and said, "No one is getting away." They groaned, "No, I don't want to die." She clicked her tongue and remarked, "Looks like players are just a bunch of ruthless, cold-blooded animals." As she consumed the souls, the bone serpent demon noticed two cloaked figures approaching. She suddenly said, "There are still players around here, and they're even coming right to me. How interesting." One of the players asked, "Have you ever seen a handsome black guy holding two daggers?" The true bone serpent spirit challenged in response, "I'm just a player. What right do you have to make me answer you?" Hearing this, Afei was furious. He immediately charged forward and kicked her aside. A fight unleashed endless fire blades and a barrage of bullets, all aimed straight at the true bone serpent spirit. Dust filled the air and the smoke slowly began to clear. Afei pinned her down, who was gasping for breath, and asked again, "Did you meet him or not?" Each time he repeated the question. He threw a punch into her. He was desperately demanding, "Answer me now." The little pepper intervened. Afei, stop hitting her. She's already dead. Afei quietly shed a tear, burning the true bone serpent spirit's body. He forced himself to say, "Let's go. We'll find the next one." She stepped forward and hugged him tightly from behind, urging, "Afei, take a break. If you keep going like this, you won't be able to handle it." He refused. "I don't care about that." The little pepper protested, "But I do." She expressed, "People really do need us, but I need you more than anyone else."